Leave it to the professionals.
Blessed by Bundy, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been golden when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Call her Era Lord. Call me Levi, playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like the Brown James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Reviews not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum entities. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I got a shout out
Started
to
off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Breaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in shoes. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, mighty, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the ride with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't done so, do us a favor, drop us a GM in the chat down below. Then head up top, smash that like, repost a bookmark on today's space. We greatly appreciate it. Warms up the algo, lets everyone over here, and does us a solid. Best GMers drop those GMs in all the chats. We're live over on YouTube, as well as the Abstract Streets on my account today, as well as the X video feed. All those should be pinned up top. And as always, I'm Cap, Jim, my co-host Steve. Never any financial advice in the show. Crypto's risky, NFTs are risky, meme coins exception. Risk can go to zero to moment's notice. Please don't put any money in you can't afford to lose. Know that Steve and I hold tokens we'll talk about from time to time here in the show. We are not financial advisors, certainly not your financial advisor. Just join us for some fun, some information, and education along the way, and some very opinionated takes. GM, Steve, how you doing, sir?
GM, it's almost like it's our job to give opinions. I don't know. Some might say. So interesting that I know Cap got some feedback that perhaps gives too many opinions, it sounds like. So that's it. Good to be back at my home base. Honestly, I'm just going to shoot everybody straight. It is a weird week and a weird month for me. I am currently running on about 2 hours of sleep that I got on a plane. I was thinking to myself as I was in the shower today after I got home, did I shower this morning? And I'm like, wait, no, this morning was when I was on the plane. I got on a plane last night at 9:30, but really that was 12:30, and it took off at 10, but really that was 1 a.m. for me. And then I sat on that plane, got about 2 hours of sleep, and rolled my way in this morning. Grabbed the first hoodie I could find, Von Frunten. So apologies to your guy Signetti. It's a Buckeye hoodie. Shout out Will Howard. Step on that Sig. Yeah, Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. I gotta mention to you, I'll just tell people I gotta step out to take my son to a soccer camp that he's going to. He's in the midst of a soccer camp as well as travel tryouts this week, so it's a busy week there. And I'm running on fumes. Also, I don't think I've eaten I think we're going on like 18 hours or something. So we're gonna be at about a 20 to 24-hour fast by the time I actually eat next. So just a little bit of coffee, grab the Starbucks on the way home from the airport, and we ride. But yeah, it's been an interesting week for sure, to say the least. Did the last two Monday, Tuesday from the hotel room. Although I will say this is how you know you're sort of doing the thing that hopefully you're supposed to do and want to do for the rest of your life, because I showed up Monday on like no sleep after I flew to the West Coast Sunday night, Tuesday with very little sleep coming out of Monday and jet lag, Wednesday now on 2 hours of sleep when I flew a cross-country flight on a red eye. So I showed up because I want to be here, not because I have to be. You would have been told. You are one thing that people like probably don't realize about myself and Cap. We are like probably the most understanding co-host and empathetic to the other person, where it's like, if I told Cap this morning, you know what, like, I'm tired, I'm taking a red eye, I'm not going to make it, Cap would have been like, all right, we'll make it work, we'll figure it out. No, like sort of like undertones whatsoever. But I want to be here. So it's not even like I feel guilty. It's like I do feel that obligation to you just as you feel it to me. Like we have that. But like I want to be here. So it's just a different type of vibe from other jobs where it's like, previously maybe I would have been like, oh, it's a job that I would have, sat my way out. So yeah, so we're going to do the best we can, but running on fumes. So if I say anything stupid, this morning I actually have an excuse as opposed to all other mornings.
Someone will correct you in the DMs, I'm sure, if you say anything stupid. Happy birthday to our boy Dobbins. I hope you have a wonderful day out there. I'm not sure. I'll let you any other GMs or anything you want to get into. And I had a few like non-important cold open topics. We kind of hit on a couple of them in the war room, but I don't know if you saw the thing from Sandeep, the Polygon founder. I do think that not only have we entered founder mode, I think it might be like the beginning of the ends for DAOs, foundations. I'm doubling down on that take. I think it's a flawed model. I agree with Von Futten. I think it was primarily, in many cases, a liability shield. And I think that's no longer, just think about someone like Sandeep, the largest holder of Polygon. He's the founder. It's like, it's his baby. And then you're going to let random strangers vote and tell you how to build a business. It just sounds idiotic if you zoom out and think about it.
Yeah, like I'm actually fine getting into this instead of we don't need to talk about chess goats or anything else in the cold open. I'll hit some GMs real quick and then we can do it because I do always want to GM the GMer. Thanks to everybody who's GMing in all the chats. I think Teacher Katie is relatively new to the X video chat, so good to see you out there. Obviously, Von Frunten, Big Bear also in the X video chat. Like to see that. RDL shows up every morning. Diablito. Von Frunten is a multi-chatter guy. Bordo Saka, sorry I missed you when I was in Seattle. It was like a quick in and out trip for family reasons. Thomas over in the Thomas hitting the ethos grind as well as a couple other things heading in the abstract chat. Teacher Katie out there as well. Machiavelli Mesh. We got Mato or Mato. I don't know. Mato, tomato. Diablito, appreciate you as well. We'll try to get over to the space, but as I mentioned, I'm running at about probably like 40% today. But appreciate everybody out there. And for some reason, there we go. Now we're loading it up. Give us a like, a retweet, and comment on the room, by the way. It costs you nothing. We don't charge people where we give things away here. Cap hits parlays and gives it away.
Maybe.
Doesn't hit parlays and doesn't give it away. Going to have some Ape Chain giveaways coming up. We will get to that in the next probably month or so as soon as we get out of the crazy June. But GM, yeah, happy birthday, Dobbins. Love Dobbins is a good one. Dobbins is a good community member in general in Web3. Chief, Diablito, Mel always out there. Machiavelli, 1 in a million, good seeing you out there. Clay, NBA Memo out there slanging that tequila. Micro, Mike C, Riz Brian, Big Bear, Kazi, Durs, CZR, Maria. You know what I actually love about our community too is that they're comfortable enough. I remember we were like Kazi, and sent me a DM was like, hey man, just so you know, it's Kazi like Kamikaze. I'm like, I'm so glad you're comfortable telling me that because like there are people who like, they'll be like, you've said the wrong name for so long and I didn't want to tell you. It's like, no, we appreciate that. I love the comfortability. Same way people are willing to come up and debate or argue with us. So very much appreciate it. By the way, Achilles, I think you are rocking a capybara, right? Like that's what man, good for you. Me not having a Kaido capybara nor an ethos validator, it's just, I mean, such a fumble on my part.
I mean, the capybara, I don't feel like it's a fumble because you were late to that or you faded that. But yeah, you should have an ethos validator. You just didn't go hard enough. Like you were in the paint, you just didn't go hard in the paint.
Yeah, like I kind of did this minimum, and I should have seen it coming when a lot of the usual suspects were going really, really hard at it, and
you were telling me to go harder. Like you were like telling me I need to don't sleep on this, and then you didn't sleep on it, but you just didn't go quite hard enough. Like just missed it.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I came up pretty short, but it was like, yeah, you know,
10K now.
I know.
I haven't looked this morning, but I think those ethos validators are like over 10K.
I'd be selling it leading into this season, but that would probably be a dumb move, but I would do it. I'd probably be selling it right now because I would. Another topic we can talk about after we get into DAOs, because I do want to hit on the Sandeep thing, is like
could sell your good vibes honorary. The stone just went for 12 ETH.
Yeah,
so somebody can make their own one of one.
Does someone want a specific good vibes tailored to me with Ohio State and an everything token book in the back? I'm sure. At one point, I had an offer on that for like 3 ETH or something like
really?
that. I don't. Yeah, some sort of large offer on it. It was when they were really starting to cook, and somebody tossed in a high. I don't remember what it all. It might have been ETH and a half. I had to look back at the exact number, but I did have a pretty high number on the honorary at one point, which I did not. Ultimately, I was not going to sell that one. I may sell. I mean, I have 2 good vibes club. I may sell one if the floor runs a little bit and keep another one as we go. But where do you want to hit? You want to hit DAOs? I got focus talk this morning. I put it out in my GM tweet. I want to maybe talk a little bit about that. But talk about the DAO talk, because you are banging the hammer. We have said before we were supportive of the. We had Gargon yesterday. People may not like it when we give opinions sometimes. I know you got a little bit of feedback on giving opinions on the space where you're supposed to give opinions. But like, if
I wasn't clear, I'm not an unbiased journalist. I have very much embedded bias, and I enjoy sharing my opinions on this show. Sometimes I will. I don't know why I've gotten this wrong now. I said it wrong the other day, and now in my brain, Steve, I cannot get the correct straw man or steel man. It is so I don't think I ever got it wrong, and I got it wrong the other day. I said the wrong thing, someone corrected me, and now my brain is so twisted in a pretzel. What is the correct word I'm looking for here? If I actually have the same opinion as Steve, often I will steel man the other side.
Yes. I mean,
what is a straw man then? Where did that come from, and why did it enter my brain?
Well, it's like if you have an opinion that is based on poor reasoning, shaky ground, it's a straw man. You're straw manning the other side. You're basically saying, look, I don't believe this, and I'm saying this is on shaky ground, it's sketchy. Steel manning is like if you're basically saying, as I understand it, you're giving a sort of improved, up-leveled perspective on something, meaning you're like, hey, I'm going to steel man the other side of this because I actually totally disagree on it, versus I'm going to straw man the other side, like me being like, I don't know, if I was like straw manning the other side of, I could straw man the other side of Blast, deciding to do their own decks and getting rid of, Thruster. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of shaky ground. So, that's sort of the idea. It's like one side is like kind of like, it's a shaky ground. Like straw man can almost be like, you'll give an opinion on something and I'll be like, that's kind of a straw man though, right, man? And you'll be like, yeah, it kind of is, right? It falls apart pretty quickly. A steel man is like, yeah, I can buy that, which is why, you're probably confused because you've listened to a Lex Friedman podcast or two, and he uses them a lot where he'll say someone like, can you steel man the side of aliens existing or the multiverse, right? Like the other side of your opinion if someone doesn't believe in it. So it's a nuanced difference, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I don't know who corrected you on it. What was the, I
don't remember. I did use it wrong. I said whatever I meant to say. I said it wrong. Someone corrected me. And then ever since then, it's just been, my brain is stuck on that moment, and I would just second guess myself.
Yeah, you're sort of like you're like weakening someone else's perspective when you put in a straw man on it, right? It's like you're sort of straw manning the other side of it, basically being like, I'm gonna pull a weaken on that. Really don't believe it. Here's kind of me straw manning it a little bit, but like really I'm kind of weakening. Like it almost can be deceptive in the sense that if I was saying like if I was trying to like straw man like InfoFi, I would say something that maybe weakens it, but it's sort of like making the case but weakening it, right? And steel manning would be me explaining why fans should be rewarded. So yeah, it's maybe just avoid all constructions of men who are not made of flesh and mostly just giant bags of water. I don't know.
Anyways, point being is, yeah, I started the show to share my opinions on this space and get the opinions of others. It is a very much so a opinion-based show, and we're free to hear all opinions. We would love to hear all opinions, actually, especially those who have differing opinions than us. But I'm not going to fake and remain neutral on something if I agree on one side or the other. That's just not me. You're going to get the real authentic me 5 days a week, and you may not like my opinion, but I'm not going to not act like I don't have an opinion on something if I do.
Yeah, no, you will have an opinion on, and you will use men of all construction materials to do so. But as far as DAOs go, we had this
DAOs, foundations, DAOs, like the whole. Maybe the more appropriate is decentralization dead.
No, decentralization isn't dead. Like that's I think a little bit too
from a network standpoint, from a building of a business standpoint.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think like you're in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's a decentralized community, right? Like decentralization is not dead.
Yeah, but
you're asking if decentralized governance is dead?
Yes, building a business. Like, yeah, it's decentralized IP. It's community driven, but the decision making, we're moving towards a more centralized approach, which I agree with wholeheartedly. Like, I just don't think it'd be like a nonprofit with a bunch of board members who work 1 hour a month on the thing, competing with a scrappy startup. It just doesn't work, man. Like, you're just going to get outworked. It just is not an effective structure. I do think part of it, some of them were probably simply liability shields. Now that doesn't seem to be necessary. And I feel for these founders, man. I feel for Garga. I feel for Sandeep. I'll pull up Sandeep's thing because this is like hot off the press. He just shared this. This morning, like 6 a.m. I replied in the comments and invited him on the show, impromptu last minute. I'm not expecting him, but let me just share Sandeep's take on this. Founder Polygon. Here we go. Big update. As the largest holder of Polygon and someone who dedicated his life to development and the success of Polygon from the very beginning, I've decided to take full control of Polygon Foundation and will be its CEO going forward. Polygon Foundation owns and oversees multiple entities, including one of the major contributors, Polygon Labs, which will continue to be led by Mark as its CEO, who in my mind is the best executive leader in the entire crypto industry. I've always stayed away from moving into the CEO role because I've been focusing on building Polygon Foundation as an institutionally governed foundation. But right now, Polygon needs clear direction and focused execution. That means stepping up. With a healthy treasury and several $100 million in cash, we're in great position to keep building for the long term without any distractions or pressure to raise. Today, I'm announcing a series of much needed changes designed to deliver greater value to Polygon stakers and bring increased clarity to the broader market. We would appreciate Polygon ZK EVM next year. Polygon's razor focus is going to be Polygon Proof of Stake and Ag Layer. Ag Layer, probably something we'll have to circle back to here in a second. Nothing else. Polygon Proof of Stake will focus on stablecoin payments and RWAs, while Ag Layer will focus on building a trustless internet of blockchains. Ag Layer, essentially the TLDR in it is, like, I think their tagline is, what if the chain didn't matter? It's basically aggregating all the different chains, so it doesn't matter what is on what chain. You can just, I assume it's all EVM compatible. We'll come back to that. The first milestone of Polygon's point of stake GigaGas roadmap is now live in testnet. The first upgrade pushes. I'm not going to read this entire thing. Gets a little technical here, but now that this, I'm skipping ahead. Now that the SEC,
they say GigaGas. Did I hear GigaGas?
GigaGas is right. Yeah.
Well, that's what my dad had growing up. GigaGas. All right.
Now that the SEC has dropped its investigations lawsuits related to Matic as a security, which should never exist given the nature of Matic and now Polygon. We are excited to see several large market makers coming back to the table in recent days and make markets in POL that strengthens the liquidity of POL on exchanges globally. TLDR and one other founder stepping into a CEO role and feels it's best to go to, this is a very lengthy one, but it talks about going from back to a 0 to 1 stage. Kind of does throw Ethereum and the Ethereum Foundation under the bus here. Says Ethereum itself was going into an existential crisis that would put Polygon and the entire Ethereum ecosystem right back to the 1 to 10 stage, or by some measures, even 0 to 1. I don't know where Polygon goes from here in this competitive world of L2s, but I'm betting on founder, CEO-led L2s beating some faux decentralized L2 that's going to attempt to compete in this extremely competitive space.
I mean, I think the post says it all. Like, I think it's sort of this idea that I'm not saying, like, the thing is, like, I think decentralization exists on a spectrum as far as like how you handle it, right? Ultimately, there's a reason why every organization that is generally successful has a key decision maker at the helm of things. There's a reason why organizations have spoken hub models or racy models or any organizational model that you've used at an organization. Anyone who's worked in like some sort of organizational structure has seen like things like racy models where it's like responsible, accountable, consulted. I don't remember what the I is, informed, or like, you know, sort of spoken wheel models. There's like all these different models that people use. But the net of it is, the upshoot of it is that there's somebody who's the ultimate decision maker. In a company, you have an executive team and the CEO gets to make the calls. And the CEO says, this is how it's going to happen. If someone says no, they're fired. That's not how it worked, right? So there's a reason for that. And there's a reason that business has evolved to that. It's because it works. And DAOs were a grand experiment, or are a grand experiment, that I think there are places where decentralized governance can work. I'm not certain that decentralized governance is the best way to run a business. I'm not certain it's the best way to direct funds. So I don't know. Like, I think it's like, I think we're just seeing something that feels kind of obvious play out in retrospect. Again, I always say, like, obviously there's a level of understanding that comes from being in this space that you get. But one of my like key indicators, if it translates out, is like, go tell a random person about it. And if you tell a random person like about a DAO, they'll be like, wait, so somebody can just buy a bunch of stuff and control it? It's like, yeah. Well, then like, that's maybe not ideal. Wait, are those people all super experts in it, but that they have to pass an acuity test before they buy it? Well, no. Then it's like, all right, well, this is probably not heading in the right direction. And I've been skeptical of DAOs. I've thought they're fun to test and try, but I'm generally skeptical of them. And I think in general, like, having a person, like, we talked about it with the Ape Chain Fund, with what the Ape Chain's doing when they're taking the funds. Like, wouldn't you rather somebody who has a deep knowledge of the direction they're heading? Like, let's say that we applied to, you know, build, I don't know, 2 months ago, we applied to build a parlays market like Clutch did. And they know they have Clutch coming down the pike. Well, in a DAO structure, that may get thrown through. And then we have two things that are competing entities on the same chain. In a non-DAO structure, they know what's coming down the pike and they say, hey, we have this thing, maybe focus on something else. So I think that directive of funds makes a lot more sense.
Also, quick circle back. Von Frunten, courtesy of our favorite LLM, brings the best explanation. Strawman weakens the opponent's argument, making it easy to attack. Steelman strengthens the opponent's argument, making it more difficult to attack and encourage a more thoughtful exchange.
Yeah, that's right. So it's like a straw man would be like, you bring up a point. Look, I'm on 2 hours of sleep, y'all. But it's like straw man's like, you bring up a point and I would straw man that argument and sort of like poke holes in it. Steelman is the other side of that. So there we go. Our long national nightmare is over. We know where we're at with that. So now we can safely say straw man, steel man, or tin man. I don't care. Any sort of man. All the men welcome, and women as well. We welcome all peoples of all kinds of Coffee with Captain. But yeah, I don't know. I think the idea of DAOs being not dead, but like, again, like I had this idea of like, if you're directing something and people have a certain area of expertise and they have to show an acuity towards it, and then they get a soulbound token and they have a vote towards something, I would prefer that. But inherently, the governance is going to be flawed. And I think, the direction Polygon's going is smart. If you want to be competitive, you got to leave it up to people who know what they're doing. And like, think of a Fortune 500 company like a DAO. Like, what would get voted through and how they'd run things. You pay people with the expertise to be at the top for a reason. So I'm with you.
Not really crypto newsworthy, but is crypto newsworthy to some degree. We did have, it appears, Elon and Trump have made up. For everyone who was worried about that, order is restored apparently. I do think it's an interesting time to be a builder here, because it feels like the proverbial gloves are off. It's like free reign, go do what you want to go build what you want to build. I still come back to, like, nothing has actually changed. Like, there's no new regulation. Nothing's actually changed. Are we going to get anything like, I know there's I don't know why I keep forgetting the name of it. Creative Act, whatever the Stablecoin Act is, but
precedent changes though. I mean, precedent's changing, right? Like, we have an Ethereum ETF and a Bitcoin ETF, which means they're marked as commodities and sufficiently decentralized. Worth noting, we have a Solana ETF coming probably in July. Solana, by all accounts, has the marks of a security. The government has said so. They actually marked it as a security in lawsuits against things like Coinbase and Binance, I believe. Yet Solana ETF is coming.
So are we all just comfortable moving forward that because they're not saying these things aren't securities anymore, we're good? Like, without any actual change in law or regulations?
But I don't think you need, like, there needs to be change in law and regulations on certain things. And I think it's important to put those goalposts in place. But I think with something like Solana, it's like as simple as, like, the precedent is set. Like, when you have Solana as an ETF, the ETF gloves are off, to your point. The ETF is off to the races.
Or am I interpreting that as, so Solana ETF gets approved, it goes live.
You could have
In that
anything.
case, we are going to see ICO season 2. Like, how do we not? How does not everyone run back that model? If it's legal, I mean, if it's not a security, why not just go that route and launch your chains, launch your dApps, launch your protocols? Why not just go back to ICO model?
We're probably going to swing a little too far in one direction, and then we're going to have to come back.
And that's what I feel. That's what I'm like. I'm not getting the words out well, but I feel like I have this, like, uneasiness that, like, it feels like it's just free for all, and I'm like, I'm like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I'm waiting for, like, oh shit, we went a little too far. Now people are going into jail, and then we go backwards 5 years. Like,
well, no, it wouldn't be too far. People are going to jail. It would be, we've gone too far and people should be in jail, right? Like, that's the problem, is but I think, like, on one hand, like, I guess, like, we probably need to loosen the reins and see, like, where you got to walk up to the edge and maybe over it a little bit to see where the edge is sometimes. And I think, like, right now, like, setting up a foundation in, like, the fucking Cayman Islands, like, can we just, like, allow businesses that are working in crypto to just operate in here instead of, like, operating here but pretending not to operate in here and then doing it's like
Cayman Island entities down bad.
Yeah,
like their demand is drying up rapidly.
Short the Caymans on noise. No, it's yeah, I am shorting the Cayman Islands, but no, it's things like that where it's like, well, maybe you could set it up in Delaware or Montana, or it's just, there comes a point where it's like, we're doing this silly theater that doesn't need to be done. On the flip side of it, yeah, I think, like, precedent matters. And once you start having people setting up their businesses here, the precedent will be set and we'll be off to the races. Once you have a Solana ETF, I think that kicks the door open, because Solana is not sufficiently decentralized, as I understand it, but it's not registered as a security. But if you're putting it as an ETF, you're effectively saying it's a commodity. And I know this is, like, nerdy in the weed stuff, but it matters because this is a highly regulated industry in the, what you can buy from a financial perspective. If a Solana ETF goes live, you're saying Sol's a commodity. You're saying it is not a security, because in order for it to be an ETF, it would have to be registered as a security based on what you would know about it today. But instead, it's going live, as I understand it. I'm not an expert. Don't quote me on this. I'm sure somebody's way smarter than me is going to correct me in some nuances. But, once a Sol ETF goes live, what can't go live for an ETF at that point? And so does that kick down the door for other, baskets to be included in crypto? And is that good or bad? Like, I think like, and then of course you have the flip side of it with everyone launching tokens and it's considered property and it's like not considered a security, even though it's like, I guess we just decided like in the past 6 months, like the Howey test just doesn't exist, which I don't like that. I don't like using a, 75-year-old citrus grove test to, judge new technology that could have never been imagined at the time. Right. I mean, like if we explained even our smartphones to someone at the time when we were talking about friggin' citrus groves being, like how we did the Howey test, they think we are from space. So like, I think it's good that we're changing it out. I would like to see more goal, like sort of like, or fence posts be put in place. Is probably a better term for it. But yes, I do think we're sort of a little bit off to the races here.
Also, might be an interesting morning. We have CPI print coming up here at some point. Apparently, just as we opened the show, I missed this, but Trump put out that the deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China is getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That was 8:04 this morning. I
like how you just called the Chinese president like Zeldruna Elgauskas. Instead of calling him Xi Jinping, you called him President Z. President Elgauskas out here catching rebounds.
I will share opinions. A world, global, political, geopolitical expert. I am not.
Yeah. But either way, Xi Jinping and Trump sound like they've reached a deal. I think they both can claim they won, which is kind of the way that you could thought. This was going to end one of two ways, and wouldn't have been shocked either way.
Both win, or we head to World War III. That was probably the two outcomes, huh?
The worrisome part of it, I don't even know if it's World War III as much as the worrisome outcome of it is that I think people underestimate China is old, prideful, and stubborn. And I don't say stubborn in a way that's like knocking them. I mean, like,
CPI below expectations. We're going to send today. I don't know. Market's not responding yet, but I think we're maybe minutes away from a God candle.
Yeah, that's it's going to be. I mean, we're entering.
I don't know. I figured we'd be running already, but it doesn't appear to be.
Yeah. No,
it's going.
Off we go. Watch that 401k kick up a little bit. No, it's look. I mean, it's a good time to be in crypto. It's a good time to be in Web3. Man, I don't know if you saw, I was about ready to run through a fucking wall. Let me pull up the tweet the other day from Haseeb Qureshi from Dragonfly Capital, I believe is the one who said it. I interviewed him once on a space for On-Chain Monkey. He was fantastic. I retweeted it. I'm going to pull this up because I want to read this to you because this, I think, is relevant to us because I did have this conversation. I shared over the weekend, or not over the weekend, the past couple of days, that I went to a place where you could tip in Bitcoin or you could pay in Bitcoin. And the waiter said, I got a tip in Bitcoin once. And I brought up to my mom that if she had put the money, because look, I don't have a lot of money. My mom has some money that they've saved up over the years. I had told her put $100,000 in Bitcoin when it was about, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000. And I explained to her how much it would be worth now. And you feel like you haven't made it. Everyone's like, oh, you're not late. Let me read this real quick. It's from Haseeb Qureshi, Dragonfly Capital. I think he's, managing partner. That's his title, Dragonfly Capital. To the class of 24-25, there's a famous line from, this would be Mr. Mark Andreessen, famous line from Mark Andreessen when he moved to Silicon Valley in 1994. The internet boom was already underway. He came from a small town in Iowa, and seeing these growing giants like AOL and Cisco, he was worried he was already too late. That by 1994, he was worried the whole internet thing was basically done. I felt the same when I first got into crypto, venture capital in 2018. Polychain, Pantera, A16Z, DCG, and others were already legendary. Was there really space for another crypto VC? Seemed like maybe it was already too late and the industry had consolidated. Don't worry. Barely anything has happened yet. Bitcoin is still 1/10 the price of gold. Less than 1% of the world is on chain. There hasn't been a single law passed in the US about crypto. That's what you were saying earlier, Cap. And there's not a single major central bank in the world owning any of this stuff. You're not late. Crypto is still tiny compared to what it's going to be in 20 years. So welcome to the crypto. A lot is going to change here. Come make your mark. I was about ready to run through a wall. I mean, but that's like the perspective of like, I feel like I've missed, and I've been here since 2018, but I just haven't gone heavy into Bitcoin as much as I should. And my assets, I don't feel like I've managed as well. And I'm like, man, I just don't have enough. So few people own these assets right now. And the smartest people in the world and governments are. Our president has a meme coin. Maybe or maybe not a wallet. Our government has committed to a strategic Bitcoin reserve and holds a bunch of Bitcoin they're not selling. Countries are buying it. Businesses are buying it. The world is not on chain yet. Like, we are still, I like to think like, people are like, we're not going to be early for long. I've said it before. It feels like we're still super early though. And when I read something like that, it's just this perspective of like, if Bitcoin's digital gold, then if you own a Bitcoin that's, right now a full coin, in theory, if it goes 1 for 1, you're holding the $100,000 thing that should be worth $1 million, right? And I'm not saying it'll net out there. Who knows where it nets out from that perspective? But I think like sometimes like, again, I think HODL was just a misspelling, but I've heard people say, HODL is hold on for dear life. I sometimes I feel like I'm just white knuckling my way through this thing, and it's just like, just hold on. Don't sell the Bitcoin. Hold on to it. I know that gets you killed with some NFTs and some other things, but with some of the stuff that's really out there, ETH, Bitcoin, man, I do the math from 2017. If I just put like $50 a month into Bitcoin, I would be sitting pretty right now. And it's like, I'm doing it now. The best day to plant a tree was yesterday. Second best day is today. It's just, I feel like when I read stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? We probably still are early. There probably is still a world where your Coinbase account, if you got $10,000 of crypto in there, that might be $100,000 not too long from now. It's possible. So I just think like that gets me so inspired to be like, yes, I want to build cool shit. Yes, I want to be involved in this space. And yes, like the opportunity still exists. We're not late. Everyone tells you they're late. So I don't know. Like I thought it was a good reminder of how early we still are, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes.
Gio says, I know we're early because a large portion of CT can't even figure out how to bridge to Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid hitting new all-time highs as well. I feel like I owe Phonics and Payne a daily Hyperliquid plug, at least. But GG to all those in the Hype ecosystem.
I'm seeing some
I saw your focus post, by the way. Hyper EVM is it's in my top 3. I think we're just going to see a bunch of cooks there. There's too much attention. They've got too much of the mind share, too much of the capital for it to not just be some absolute cooks. So I like you, I'm focusing where I'm spending my time and attention and what I'm diving deep in. But Hyper EVM is certainly one of them.
Yeah. I do want to get to the focus conversation in a second and talk about what that looks like.
Focus as we dance around to 17 different ADD topics this morning, but.
For sure. We'll get Joey here in a second. I did want to hit on, I saw some people in the war room saying that, Haseeb lost them at welcome to the crypto and made a ChatGPT joke. I actually think when he said in it, because at the end, instead of saying welcome to crypto, he said welcome to the crypto. I don't think that was ChatGPT. I think that proves that it wasn't ChatGPT and he was editing his post around. He had a typo. Like, that's a typo move. Like, I do that all the time where it's like, I just leave out a straight word because I've been messing around with my posts so much. So I think it's a not ChatGPT move, but, I want to go to Joey Viles here because I'm not sure what brought you up, but I don't want to stray too far from it before we go to the focus topic. Joey GM.
GM, guys. On your comment about like white knuckling and holding. So, I got laid off from my career 18 months ago, and I've been working some part-time jobs and whatever I can since then. And this is kind of crazy to say. I've basically used up all of my 401k, like traditional investments, to keep paying our bills because I'm afraid to touch anything crypto. Like, I have, not significant, but I have enough of a holding in Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Chainlink, all these other ones, right? And it's like the last thing I'm willing to touch. Like I am literally doing everything I can between different accounts and zero interest credit cards and balance transfers and literally anything. I know it's crazy to say, but I just don't want to touch any of them and cash them in because I really do believe that like we're going to go much higher in the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it's not crazy. It's smart. It's disciplined, and it's how a lot of people build wealth is, you have your buckets. Steve and I talk about our buckets all the time. Like you have your long-term buckets, like don't touch it. Find other ways, have an emergency fund. If you get a flat tire, don't have to sell your Bitcoin to go get a new set of tires.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I am comfortable cashing in my 401k before I'm comfortable selling my Bitcoin. And then the real quick on the DAO thing, because I know you're going to transition. I just have a question. In the previous and current iterations of DAOs, right? We've talked about like how voting should be handled. Should it be like 1-to-1, or should it be just one vote, or like should it be like are there ways to so that way? Because we've talked about, I think it was before with like the ApeCoin DAO where it was like, well, Animoca holds so much ApeCoin that they can literally just swing any decision, and I think that's what I remember. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember we used to have like a conversation similar to that. I know that like it's not DAO season now, but could DAOs work if we come up with a better system? Because I do think that there is a system where you want the people to make the decisions. I mean, in America, the voters are the ones that are supposed to make the decisions. But do you just think that we're just not, it's not there yet? Like we need to continue to figure out how to make them better?
Yeah, but I don't know what the answer is. Like we've seen different models. I agree. Yes, it needs to be better. The voting, I don't think we've yet seen the optimal voting structure. If DAOs are going to work, one token equal one vote, I'm nearly convinced it's not the answer. It's just too easy. Like it's just too easy to manipulate. It's too easy for a whale to extract from. It's just, whether it's a proposal, whether it's funding, whether it's voting for council members, like it's just one token, one vote is broken. Oftentimes, your most active, passionate individuals in the DAO, you'll have a handful of tokens. And then some whale out of left field who's never done a thing, but they hold 10 million tokens, they come in and they get whatever they want. It's just, that doesn't work. It's just, I don't, whether quadratic voting, there's been a lot of different proposals, a lot of different attempts, but yeah, I don't know as if we've seen the ultimate end all be all optimal voting structure for a governance DAO. Partially why I think it's broken. Like it is an experiment. They're fine. If you want to keep experimenting with DAOs, fine, perfectly fine. I think it's maybe at this point crazy for a $100 million plus organization to defer their strategic business decisions and their operational decisions to a group of people. Just because they hold a few tokens, they're not, just because they're a whale and they hold a bunch of tokens, like they probably don't have your organization's best.
Could you imagine
if like they're short? It's like the incentives are not aligned. Sorry, Steve.
No, you're good. I was jumping on top of you. I was going to say, could you imagine if, say, the who's somebody who's great with like personnel moves, like the New England Patriots in the 2000s or whatever, like when in the 2000s
they ask their fans to vote if they can start Tom Brady.
They're like, hey, should we? You're on mute, Cap. You're on mute, Cap. Cap's still muted. I don't think Cap can hear me. I think Cap has a whole thing muted. Can everyone hear? Can you hear me, Joey?
Oh, I have my mic.
I can hear you.
I was going on a Tom Brady rant, or like my example was, the Patriots they want to sign Randy Moss, and the fans vote no because he's a locker room cancer. He's a bad player, and they don't want him to spoil their franchise.
They want to cut Wes Welker at the red. You know what I mean? When Bill Belichick was notorious for cutting guys, even guys that were his favorite players, a year early and looking right about it. It's like, oh, do you want to cut this player? Like, absolutely not. Fan favorite. Like, give him all the money. basically what the Browns do, but without a DAO. Is like they're like, yeah, we should pay Josh. I love Josh Cribbs. Don't get me wrong, but it's like let's pay Josh Cribbs a lot of money. It's like he's a return man.
Now the Browns is probably a bad example because the fans probably would have voted not to give Deshaun Watson $250 million. Like,
well, yeah,
Browns have not made.
But on the other hand, they have done governance by fandom where they're like they give fan favorites hometown. They're like, but Josh Cribbs went to Kent State. Let's give a kick returner a bunch of. And like, look, I'm glad Josh Cribbs got paid because I like him as a human. But it's like, and if you're going to be a bad franchise, at least be fun to watch. That's why I wanted them to pay Myles Garrett, my favorite Brown ever. Said he wants to send Aaron Rodgers to the graveyard. Like, good, love that. Pay that guy. He earned it. But yeah, the point is like you don't let organizations run. You don't let the inmates run the asylum. And I think that is the problem you can run into with DAOs. That's why I said, like, you know, I think you nailed it when you said a multi-billion-dollar or multi-million-dollar organization. Like, for me, it's like, you know, if a DAO, like, is directing funds for charity and, like, a group of people who have vested interest in charity can go and correctly debate and have a soul-bound token that you can turn on. Like, there's methods and things you could use DAOs. You could use DAOs within organizations with SBT's 1-for-1 votes, where you have people direct like things that employees are able to do, like from a employee perks perspective, or whether you want to put a Starbucks in your building in your large company, or you know, a Subway or whatever. Great.
You want to vote? You want the employees to vote where they should get their pizza from on Pizza Party Friday? That's fine. I do not think your entry level employees should have a say in. The entry level employees should not have a say in what they're going to do with their treasury, like what they're going to do with their.
When are they selling their T-bonds versus their, you know, moving into more index? Like you don't.
Maybe that's what happened at Apple. Maybe Apple decided to outsource their design to Macworld community members.
So in other words, we shouldn't go down the discussion. That's cold open for tomorrow because I was like, it doesn't look that bad to me. Like everyone, I think it's you know what I think happened with Apple? I think it's a friggin' it's the version of it's like an NBA shoe roast where like, yeah, the shoes are bad, but they're not that bad. Everybody went way overboard.
It's really bad. Like I agree with there's several good takes on it. Like it is another conversation because it's just someone I can't remember who I credited them yesterday, but they said Apple is lacking a maniac with taste at the top. I am pro maniacs with taste at the top. They don't have a maniac with taste. They got one of the best logistical inventory management gurus in the world in Tim Cook, but he's not a maniac with taste.
This looks largely the same to me.
No, man, it is bad.
You don't like the circle?
It's not just a circle it just looks so cluttered junk. It is not Apple-esque at all. I actually did not see the maniac with taste take. I love that take because when I think about it, and he would actually appreciate it. I'm going to say this to him. My what's it called? My one of my mentors, the former CMO Progressive, absolutely a maniac with taste. Like he was so good at selling insurance. The CMO they hired her. I mean, it's just like people are not people. There's some people who are great. The guy before him, the lady after him, just so far like not great. It's like. He was a maniac with taste where when I put together a slideshow for him, it's like he'd be like, hey, I just noticed the number on that slide is like a quarter of a centimeter to the left from the last one. Did you see that? And like everyone's looking, we moved the slide 5 times. We're like, we're talking about content and you noticed that and paid attention to everything we said. Like he used to get people saying they had slide envy and like, who does your decks and things like, so it's like Steve Jobs flipped out on people because like the factory was dirty, like the inside of a casing that no one would ever see wasn't perfect. Like, yeah, these people are not normal human beings to do the things that they do. And Apple is Apple's operating right now. They're designing things like they're a decentralized organization.
A maniac with taste that is a great take. And like, again, it's not said in a like, hey, you know, screw this guy, maniac, like he's totally crazy. It's maniac with taste is somebody who, knows what they want, knows how to do it, and actually has the ability to do it. Let's flip over to President. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick, do you think that the idea of these DAOs was created just to give holders some sense of like utility to make them feel important when they couldn't think of anything else back in the day?
No, I think it was probably pure like a lot of crypto was before we just, you know, got Laudio. I think it was probably pure to begin with. No, I think it was probably pure to begin with. I just think like where I think DAOs go wrong, and again, I'm not trying to like beat on this one, but it's on the top of my mind because I've written like 3 long form articles. I'm working on a deep dive on Kaido now and the pros and cons of it. And I just need to launch my Substack where I want to do my long form writing and maybe some long form interviews that are both related and unrelated to crypto. But I'm like terrified to put my work out there because I don't think anyone will read it and I think it'll suck. But like, I did a deep dive on it. It's like,
You're doing it for yourself, Steve. Do it for yourself. Don't worry about everybody else.
I know, but like part of me is like, I'm doing it for myself. It's fun to write this for myself. I could just, write like it's my little diary about like why Web3 hasn't been adopted or why InfoFi has. I really like my InfoFi intro, by the way. Maybe I'll share a little bit later if we have some downtime here.
Real quick, and then I'll let you get to hands too. This is Mert. I pinned it up top for anyone who wants to read it. Mert Ordur. I'd not connected with him before this take, but a pretty good, thoughtful take on.
Is a French name? Ordur. I like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good take. But yeah, he's the ones who he said every day we stray farther off of Steve's light.
That looks like shit. See that I didn't see that.
This is what they're shipping. It's garbage. Like it is absolutely. You're talking about one of the best. I think Apple's designed some of the best products in the world. This is junk. Like this is what I think. I will check my words. We'll go to Gary here in a second. He keeps having issues. It's not all DAOs. Not all DAOs. I shouldn't speak in absolutes. There are some good ones. At the stage where most of these organizations go decentralized, it is broken. The voting structure is broken for most of them. And in the competitive landscape, I think it is just a massive, massive miss. But this is what I wanted to get to here on his take. He says bugs, whatever. It's a beta 1. But he goes on to say, like, this is what it looks like when the CEO isn't a product guy. Project managers infiltrate and erode a functional organization. No one is held personally accountable. Without maniacs with taste at the top, you can't ship a great product, especially one this complex. Sound like a DAO?
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned about the top too, because the CMO I mentioned, he's made comments before where he is a creative. And he
everything looks good in isolation, but the big picture, it's chaos.
Well, I think you talk about the CEO being a product guy. And again, going to the CMO analogy, because that's the world I live in marketing wise, it's like that to me is an example of like the CMO that I am talking about. He is a relentless creative. And because of that, like, I'll give you a quick example and then I promise we'll go to DH. But like to your point about the product guy, having a CEO as a product guy means that they're going to be deeply ingrained in what the product is like this. CMO as a creative guy, when he came on, we literally measured a like monthly thing. Are you sick of seeing flow? We called it flow fatigue, and it was getting bad. And so instead of him trying to like number his way out of it, he's like, why don't we use, like a cast of characters? I'm going to use a network approach. I'm going to slowly take weight off flow by giving more airtime to her other people, almost like an SNL cast who has a star who's a little bit too big for their britches. And then I'm going to introduce other characters until we find one that sticks. And sure enough, it worked. Flow fatigue came down because people weren't seeing her 37 times a month anymore, which wasn't, I believe, was the real number at the time. It's like because of that. And so he approached it creatively, not statistically, not like, if we just run these numbers at these TRPs and change our TRPs at these different networks, and people might be getting sick of it. It's like he ran it based on creative. There's creative with Baker Mayfield that crushed. Like there are people who weren't big fans of that, but it worked. The creative that he runs with Dr. Rick, if people have seen that, you're turning into your parents. There are people who didn't like that on the inside. It crushed. He did a really good job on a lot of that stuff. So, I think like having a creative in charge of that, like it made for a better CMO. I think having a product person at CEO when you're selling products is going to matter. So let's do this. DH got up here. We're going to go to Depressive Hacks. Then we'll go to Jack right after that. Depressive Hacks, get in here, GM.
GM guys, we have strayed a little bit from the
jump in with whatever.
analogies,
Jump in.
I just want to throw in 2 real quick things. So first, as a long-suffering New York Jets fan, I'm pretty confident that a fan vote couldn't possibly be worse than whatever has been happening over the last decade and a half. Second,
For real. Terrible.
Do you guys know what's going on there? Do you know that Woody Johnson's son, Brick Johnson, is allegedly making decisions there, and he's like a college kid who they're saying he actually has input, and he actually made input based on someone's Madden rating as a data point.
Good.
Yes, I heard that.
Look at the Jags GM. Look, like I think this is
Duval.
This is smart. Like these old men should be handing off the reins to their younger kids who understand tech better, who are like. There's so much, like we may laugh today at like Madden AI ratings. or Madden ratings. There's a world in the future. It's the most accurate player ratings on the play. Like there's just tech is improving, and you Jets are. I think you Jets fans are going to be pleased this year. Justin Fields is going to have.
Justin Fields is going to cook with Garrett Wilson. That's his guy.
Like
that's his guy.
They're all underpriced right now.
Breece Hall.
Yeah,
Breece Hall, like Justin Fields, like that backfield is going to cook. By the way, just for data's sake, I know that we're jumping all over the place this morning, but like for data's sake,
it's Impressive Hack's fault. He brought us back into cold open material at 8:55. I'll just say this: if you're drafting best ball right now, the best underrated, like not last round, he goes before that, but Mason Taylor is going to be the number 2 target in that offense. Tight end Mason Taylor, son of Jason Taylor. He's got the DNA, he's got the genes, and he is the sleeper tight end. If you're drafting now and you need a last round flyer or close to last round, is Mason Taylor is going to be behind Garrett Wilson.
I don't know where Justin Fields is going, but like fun fact, Justin Fields has, I believe, the highest conversion percentage. The Jets voted in favor of keeping the tush push when the Packers, loser behavior, tried to get the tush push taken away. And Justin Fields, I believe, is the second high. Now he has a far lower number, either the second highest number, maybe even the highest percentage, even over Jalen Hurts, but he's right there with Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen as far as the tush push goes. That tells me that, one, that turns your offense into 1st and 8. And second, it tells me he's probably going to get a lot of touchdowns because they're going to be pushing him in the end zone because he's a big old body, which we won't go down. We'll get off the football thing.
And Glenn, the coach, got absolutely torched by Fields when he was in Detroit and Fields was in Chicago. So Glenn, very much it was a signing like, okay, this guy's not beating me again, and I'm going to let him do fun stuff with the football this year. So yeah, I think you Jet fans are in for a fun season. It's also great for fantasy because it's going to be so narrow. The distribution is going to be Wilson, Taylor, and Hall. Like they have no depth, but the studs are going to print, I think.
Yeah, I think Hall's going to eat this season. I loved Hall last season, and I felt like when they took the horses out of the barn, Hall really ate, but we'll stay off the football stuff. Jack doesn't even know what the hell we're talking about. He's like, what football? That's like,
Okay, so I actually had like something else that I wanted to talk about before we got off the rails, if that's okay. So I really just wanted to throw in a thought on not specific to the DAOs, but like, I think, so in my opinion, one of the things that has been long an issue is that the blockchain allows for so many different roles that used to be very separate stakeholder roles, right? So you have customers and you have shareholders and you have employees and you have, right? And the blockchain allows for like you to not have to make all those stakeholder roles as clearly defined. And I think that like the way that DAOs work is kind of an extension of that. So my question for you guys is, how much do you think that better figuring out how we define either on a broad basis, like legally or in the project itself or whatever, what rights that digital asset holders do and do not have will actually help to make things like this run more smoothly than they do today down the line?
I'm not fully tracking. Can you rephrase that? Like it might be my like lack of sleep, but what do you mean by defining? Are you just saying that different people who own different assets have different like governance roles within it?
Yeah, like so like you join one project and like you're a holder and they kind of look at you as like a consumer, right? You join another project and you're a holder and like they might, gift you some shares of the company down the line. You join another project and you're a holder and like you're just kind of there for the art. There's so many different things that you can be to whatever it is that you're involved in as a digital asset holder, right? And I like, how does the way that the rights of where like digital asset holders fall in your stakeholder matrix as a company impact the ability for things like a DAO or other things that we try to do early in the space to be effective, because those things have not really been fully established yet? Does that make more sense?
It does. I don't know how it plays into the DAO conversation, but you did just give me a deep dive article that I want to dive into on my non-existent Substack that I haven't launched yet, because that is a fantastic, like that is honestly like that is such a focused, narrow thought process that I absolutely love, in that how do you define the roles and create a framework for different types of digital asset holders within it could be a community-based brand, it could be an art collector. It has so many different roles. You could be a consumer. So I don't think it actually plays as deeply into the DAO conversation, but damn it, am I glad you came up this morning, because I've been like this is the stuff that I want to do here that I don't care. Like, to Joey's point about it's for me, that nobody might read these things and I'll be totally fine with that, is that I'm enjoying doing these like the info file one or whatever. I think the roles of digital asset holders, I think where it does play in, DAO conversation aside, is it talks about where the consumer can ultimately play into their favorite brands. But as far as the actual like DAO conversation, I think that it's a relative, like, when you talk about different roles, I was actually going to make a joke, kind of like, because you're my guy, right? You're my buddy. So I was going to make a joke like, when you're talking about different roles of DAOs, I think you're talking about governance, right? So I was going to be like, did you just invent an organization with employees and managers and levels? But actually, what you're saying here is the different levels of, token delegation and what they can do. And now my wheels are spinning and I have something else to work on. I'm going to launch this thing like in the next week, I think, because I've already got like 2 articles in the can, and like one I've started on InfoFi that I'm actually really enjoying digging into. So, actually, Cap, no, actually, I'm going to ask Depressive Hacks. You're a fellow writer. Let me ask you a quick question, Depressive Hacks, and then we'll get back on track and go to Jack. DH, I have an article on this series I called Rebuilding the Block I'm starting with, about like why Web3 hasn't reached mass adoption. I have 2 written down. One's on the over-financialization, one's on the tech barrier. Kind of go in a different direction with the third, probably just going to like wrap it up and put a nice pretty bow in it. Do you think I have to release those 3 in a row? Or do you think I can release 1, then my InfoFi article, then 2? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Is it too anthological if I don't put them in a row? It's for you, DH. Maybe not. I think we lost DH. All right. Well, we'll put a cliffhanger on that.
I personally don't think that they have to be in a row. Like, if I was going to do like,
I could hear.
That was really it.
Oh, crap. I think my internet's wigging out. I'm sorry. Cap, I'll let you take us through hands. I'm losing internet.
Steve, I don't know if you were coming over top, but he was talking. Let's go, Jack. Jack, GM, appreciate your patience.
Dude, always, of course. At the very end of the show, 2 minutes, just because you felt bad, I'd never put the hand down. Look, absolutely love the conversation. Love that we did veer away from the football talk, because you were about to throw me the mic after talking about football, and I was definitely not going to be ready for that. On the Steve Jobs point, I just want to quickly throw out, you can't talk about like his genius and the fact that you need him in businesses today without talking about when he throws that MacBook into the fish tank. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard the story. I think it's in the Walter Isaacson book, which is still my favorite book, the biography about him. But basically, he's talking about the MacBook. He wants it thinner, he wants it crisper, he wants it to look perfect as well. And the product guys are just like, look, we can't make this any smaller. This is literally impossible. There is no way to make this smaller. And he grabs one of the prototypes and just throws it into a fish tank, like an actual fish tank. And bubbles start coming out of this laptop, and they're like, you see those bubbles? That means there's air in there, which means there's space in there, which means it can be smaller. So, not condoning that sort of behavior. But when we are talking about like these crazy guys with taste, that is the extent of like how these guys have operated in the past. So just wanted to bring that in. But the big reason I hopped up on stage was like the issues about DAOs, because I have had this for so long as like, how do we solve this? Because I do love the concept. I hate the execution. And I think we've talked about it on shows before, but I think the biggest issue with DAOs that at least I have come to is the fact that realistically, it's set up in the worst possible environment for it. Because I think the best version of a DAO is one to help the product and the North Star. And we've decided to introduce DAOs into a world where the product and the North Star barely exists. Crypto and like building and businesses within crypto, especially the ones you look at that have actually used DAOs in the past, we don't even know what the product is yet. There's no users to it. And we're just like, yeah, you decide on the business moves when we don't even know what the business is yet. And I think that's the biggest issue for me. But I do think they can exist in a world where you actually have that North Star in that product. I'm going to just take a breath there because I started joking about monologuing and then started monologuing.
Jack, I think good takes. I think Cap, I think what might have happened, I think it might have actually been your internet based on what I'm hearing here, by the way, because, but either way, regardless of that, Jack, I think interesting take. And I think to your point, like, I think with DAOs, like, we don't have a good sense. We maybe don't have a great sense yet on certain ones where, you know, again, like when I think of DAOs, I think of Pixel Vault launching 65,000 DAOs with various planets and being like, what are we even doing here? So I think it's a good point. I think it's a thoughtful point. I do want to pivot you. I'll let you answer that, but I want to, because your hand went back up, but I want to pivot in a direction to ask you another question. You can finish this one, but I do need to just ask a straight question. Is that, are your beloved Taproot Wizards just dead? Do we put a fork in them? Is it time to just like Bitcoin version of Wheat that sucker? Because they're down only. Udi's talking about everything except Taproot Wizards. Are they just absolutely cooked because Bitcoin is going up? Because right now, if somebody kept that 0.2 Bitcoin, they're up about $5,000-$6,000 from where they are on the Taproot Wizard. So I want your opinion on the Taproot Wizard too, just because you're a good ordinals guy, a good ordinals chap, as they would say across the pond where you're from. But I'm curious.
Throw me the curveball, dude. I love it. I love this version of Steve, unhinged. Look, on the DAO point, I was just going to reference, because I had this noted as well. It is, you know, there is a real need for some companies as they get bigger for consensus. I think the big solve is that you actually need a product, and then you need a DAO to function for the love of that product. And, you know, you could use games as an example. You can use collectibles as an example. But if you've got a DAO that is centered around monetary gain and not for the love of the product and the project, I think that's where we're seeing a big issue. And Sony Concord, I think, is a great example of why some businesses need DAOs or need people who actually like playing games to be involved, because you got, $200 million down the drain. If people aren't familiar with Sony Concord, it was a game that Sony just decided to build to compete with some already very, very dominant games within the industry. They built the whole thing and it loses 200 million, and they shut it down within a couple of weeks. And I wonder what a DAO and the function of actually having people have had early access to that, if that sort of issue would still come about. In response to Taproot Wizards, because I'm still holding. Ordinals for me are completely different than NFTs in terms of how I collect and what I look in terms of the value proposition. For me, it really is as simple as looking at projects that are lining themselves up with Bitcoin in terms of history, and also the longevity of that project in terms of, like, is it actually going to be around long enough for when Bitcoin really does hit like $1 million, and are they going to be a part of that journey in a way that you can point back to them and say, yeah, look, they were involved here, here, and here. I think Taproots are doing that. I think Udi is definitely losing it. I think Ordinals are losing it quite a bit as well right now. But for me, it's just as simple as being like, look, at a certain point in time, showing your wallet with a ton of Bitcoin in it really isn't going to be the flex digitally. It is going to be a moment where people do need to rep a PFP when we look back at 2021, 2022 era, and just be like, look, I paid this ridiculous amount of money for this PFP because I genuinely believe in Bitcoin. And I think that's the big difference, right? Like ETH, Bored Apes, Doodles, Azuki, not one of those would you say, oh yeah, that's full of ETH maxis. I think with Ordinals, that's the look that you're going for, is like, it is full of Bitcoin maxis. So the idea that, look, Udi is talking more about Bitcoin and just setting himself up within that world, I understand it a little bit more, but I'm open to follow-ups if that didn't make sense.
No, I get what you're saying. It's just, I think it's just a matter of, like, I think Udi is really smart. I think what they're building is really cool. I think the fact that they, not even necessarily related to Taproot Wizards. And by the way, like, I like Taproot Wizards. I like Far's art. I actually think it's really cool. I like the community. It's a weird thing where it, like, had this major build up. People were really excited. It just makes me sad, I guess, because it feels like there is focus on Bitcoin and talking about runes and all these other things. Meanwhile, and I thought maybe Taproot Wizards were going to get like airdrops and things because they're like this elite, club, and No Monks up, Bitcoin Puppets up, Unchained Monkey up, even Runestone's up. Taproot Wizards haven't had a sale. They've had basically the equivalent of WETH bids on Bitcoin, I believe, in 12 days. And so it's just, it's short term. Maybe we'll see. At one point, they cooked up to 20.21 on the floor. Who knows? But, and again, I like Udi. I think he's really smart. And so I'm not like counting it out. I was just curious if you, but I think you're thinking long term of like, hey, like it's a really base team, has the opportunity to have a long-term survival rate. It's almost a little bit of the on-chain monkey theory where it's like, if Danny Yang is still building on protocols on Bitcoin, on-chain monkey might be valuable there, right? And I think that there is something to be said about that. So it's just, I think there's a lot of pain at the moment. And so I think a lot of people are looking at it and saying, that's where it's at. So I get your point. Go ahead, Jack.
I was going to say, like, if you want the unhinged take, like, I am not happy with how they're operating as an ordinals project right now. I do think you set yourself, you build, the narrative and the story, which for those who don't know, like they were talking about ordinals before they even really existed. And they were, at fucking Art Basel in Miami, like years ago, like starting to push this project. And it definitely doesn't feel like they have like this concrete, okay, so we're going to launch it. We're going to sell it for a fucking ridiculous amount of money to most people. 0.1 if you had Quantum Cats, which were like basically the same value. I think they were 0.2. So 0.3 for people who had like a full collection, or 0.2 for people who were allow listed on. And then you don't really have like, okay, these are the markers after the fact to retain this attention and to talk about how we're going to drive value back to the holders or to the collection. I think they've done a really bad job of that. And I think, it gives me a little bit of Moonbirds vibes when we talk about like all of this like initial hype and like, oh my God, this is going to be the next thing that absolutely runs. But then after the fact, all of that story and all that lore that's been built up just sort of gets thrown at the ether and it doesn't really stick anywhere. And you can't really tangibly point to anything and say, look, this is where these guys are going to be. Like the Quantum Cat stuff, absolutely fine. But this idea that, Udi can just shit post on the timeline and that's all that's expected from this team at this point. No, they need to reassess and probably start looking at, okay, how do we actually connect ourselves with how Bitcoin's growing, how Opcat is going to actually launch, and explain this to a community in the way that they understand why they're holding this thing at this point. I don't think they have that right now.
No, right on. I was going to say, like, I mean, literally could just be like, hey, giving away a couple Quantum Cats for people who, do a funny video that's this, and like, it would probably cook. Like, it's that simple. It's like a community that's excited and engaged about like silly little things. And the way they built it is so fun. And I love them. And I love the way it was built. And I love how excited people were about it. And it's just, so I don't know. I just ask about that because that's been a talk and something I noticed. I haven't paid attention to it, but it's, it was such a fun community that was built in such a fun way of people dressing up as wizards. And it's so silly. And it's so like uniquely something that is, someone like me is down for, that I just want to see it thrive. So it's not a knock necessarily as much as I just want to see a little, want to see Udi doing what Udi was doing before Taproot Wizards minted. Like, go dress as a wizard and take a shower or walk around and pretend like you're traveling the world to get a Quantum Cat. Like that stuff was fun. Like, and that was what it was. It was a big, silly community. You knew who you're getting in there. Gary, saw your hand go up as well. Go ahead and get in here, GM.
Oh, GM, everybody. The sun is shining, the grass is green. I'm really happy to have some coffee and be chilling with everybody here, talking about what's important, which is our personal lives, our business lives, our Web3 lives. I think a lot of people here know that I'm sort of Web3 maxi. And so what that means is that I believe in trust maximizing. And this is really important for us as people, for our companies. This is really important for our industry. This doesn't mean that we don't have centralization. We have centralization. We have, if you have a company of one, or if you have a company, then that's a centralized company. But the technology that all the companies are using is Web3 tech. Mainly, let's think like Ethereum and smart contracts and all that stuff. And so when Facebook comes to Web3 and Twitter comes to Web3 and LinkedIn and Reddit all come to Web3, they're all not going to use Facebook stablecoin because they want to use a stablecoin that has trust maximizing value that doesn't favor one competitor over another. So that's what Web3 is doing, and we have to trust it. Why do they have to do it, and why do we have to? We have to trust it. If we don't trust it, then we're not going to use it. The same goes for AI. If people don't trust the AI, they're not going to use it. If people don't trust the crypto, they're not going to use it. And so when different competitors are coming into Web3 and are thinking, well, I don't want, to go there because my competitor already has like a foothold. That's not how the logic is going to work, because this is, quote unquote, the new internet. And with this new internet, we have DAOs. And DAOs are really, really important. And I don't want to, proverbially throw the baby out with the bathwater, because DAOs have really important functions, because we have smart contracts. And smart contracts can do everything without people. But there's some things that the technology needs to do that requires human discretion. And because it requires human discretion, we got to have DAOs where somehow we can trustlessly come together and get shit done. And the ApeCoin DAO, which I love, I've been trying to be part of the Bored Ape community and the Ape DAO community in a much larger way, and going through similar experiences as everybody else. But the concentration of voting power, and the way the token was released, created a situation where, there was a few people that had a lot of tokens. And like Jack very astutely, keenly pointed out, is that there's not necessarily a North Star, right? There's not a one focus. Because when we come together in a DAO, and the thing about DAOs, the one thing you take away, you must know, collaboration is hard. And collaboration is hard because we're different people with different needs and different goals and different wants, and we don't agree on most things. And we don't need to agree on most things. The one thing we need to do is to agree on one thing. And that one thing is the trustless rails of Web3. That one thing is whatever that one thing is, right? And, I have to say that I think the ENS DAO has done a particularly good job in being a DAO. It takes, 10, 11, 12 people to put anything through. It takes massive collaboration. And a lot of people don't know this, but when the ENS DAO token got launched, there were no VCs. So no VCs had any sort of allocation for them to have an unfair proportion in voting. So if people want to get into voting, then, you just got to buy tokens. And if anybody was going to purchase an amount of tokens that was going to disrupt the DAO and overtake the DAO, like the ENS DAO is already looking for, vector attacks and ways that the DAO can be destroyed. And so a lot of people in the ENS DAO, which manages, over $200 million, a lot of people are, upset because they want to see more money released from the ENS DAO. But millions and millions of dollars are being distributed to real builders who are adding to the ecosystem. For last year, now this year, there was just another vote, millions and millions of dollars on top of the, millions of dollars that the working groups work with. And so there's a lot of opportunity. This is a worldwide global network. The DAO is only needed for what the smart contracts can't do. And we got to have that North Star and come together because DAOs aren't perfect, but we're working on them to experiment on them. And 10, 20, 30 years from now, AIs are going to have DAOs. AIs will be part of DAOs. You'll be part of DAOs because you'll be a person on the internet. And, it'll all be ubiquitous.
Bill, what do you think, though, Gary, about the timing? You've obviously been close to ENS longer than I have. My understanding is ENS and ENS domains were a successful, thriving protocol, an organization prior to them dropping ENS and moving into this decentralized governance. No.
ENS, the it's confusing, guys, because there's three different things called ENS, maybe four different things called ENS. There's originally there's ENS Labs. They're still around. That's a centralized corporation or organization, I mean. That's headed up by Nick Johnson, Nick.eth, and he's also the founder of the ENS protocol. So that's the core team. That's like, Hayden having Uniswap Labs. And then separately from ENS Labs, the company, there's ENS DAO. And so the ENS DAO came about like almost 4 years ago, I believe, about 4 years ago in November, if I'm not mistaken. And ENS Labs, the company, they came out of sort of nowhere. I mean, Nick was a genius developer from Google and got, $500,000, $1 million grant to kickstart ENS protocol, and it almost failed, and it didn't fail, and it's the between the Lindy effect and everything, it's quite successful, and I would say once they were at a stable point that they launched, 4 years ago, Nick Johnson said, "Hey, we need to take the functions of the ENS protocol and we have to decentralize it." And it went through different stages of decentralization, and now I would say it's 100% decentralized. The entire namespace is decentralized, not just a .eth domain. But yeah, I mean, it had some. I mean, it definitely had some level of success and stability. And once it had that level of success and stability, there's the very well known, popular ENS, token launch. And I mean, it hasn't been 100% smooth sailing because working together in collaboration is hard. But the North Star was extremely clear. I pinned above, from Brantley.eth, the ENS Constitution, which sort of governs and dictates what are very precisely what our North Stars are, in order. The first being that, the namespace shall not be infringed and property rights shall not be infringed, no matter if somebody is left-leaning, right-leaning, whatever your political, economic leaning is. The North Star, the number one North Star, is that the namespace shall not be infringed and property rights shall not be infringed. And people have just been working with that. And like I said, then after the ENS DAO, then there's 3 ENS working groups. And now there's, millions of more dollars that's being distributed. And there's dozens and dozens, scores and scores of people, maybe hundreds of people, perhaps, who are actively looking at the ENS protocol, extending the ENS protocol, because it's a 1-for-1, derivative of ETH. So if you believe in .eth, you obviously or if you believe in Ethereum, and you believe in EVM, you obviously believe in .eth. And so, yeah, I would say every day the strength grows, but there was never one day where everything was just stable. There's growing pains in any relationship, including a DAO.
Yeah, fair. I don't know if Nick had decided to launch the ENS DAO and that guide the entire startup era, I don't know if they would have found the same success they did today.
That's a good point. I mean, if everything was the same except they launched ENS 5 years later or 5 years earlier, it could have looked entirely different. But I mean, I would say, hey, try to get Nick or some of those folks on this show, because it's a great backstory, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it did get launched. And there's a lot of work that goes into the forum. A lot of people, another complaint with the ENS DAO is that there's not a lot besides like PR that happens on Twitter, because most of what happens with the ENS DAO happens on the forum. And then there's other things that happen on the Discord, and then Twitter is sort of like third. But it's really hard to organize all this information and everything that people want to have done. So there's just the forum is the number one place, and there's hundreds of people on the forum who are actively reading and engaging, all sorts of nuances. Let it be discussions about, protocol upgrades or, workings with ICANN or, potential collaborations with Pizza Day.
Yeah, Jack, we'll go to you here next, and then come back to this, but very topical this morning on the topic of decentralized permissionless organizations. A big snafu over on virtuals. They were Iris was launching this morning or launched this morning, and TLDR. It was a very hyped AI agent launching on mainnet. I think it's their first one to launch on mainnet ETH. And long story short, a minute before the actual launch, another copy launched, and basically people got wrecked. Now they're refunding points, but there's just a lot of frustration. And again, it just drives home the point that it's very hard to do challenging, cutting edge things as a decentralized, permissionless organization. I understand like the why behind it, and if we're in a utopia, I think there's a time and place. And
Well, we're not in a utopia, just to be clear, with Web3 or ENS. And I'm saying the only difference between ENS, there's two main differences between ENS and something like ApeCoin DAO. The first thing with ENS is that there's been no originally an original launch, there was no VCs that got huge token allocations or any token allocations, right? So there wasn't people with different interests, financial only interests who were given large voting power. The second thing that's different about ENS DAO versus ApeCoin DAO is that the ENS DAO has clearly articulated North Star.
Yeah, I think it's a big difference. Clearly articulated North Star, and they were out of the starting gates. Like ENS and ENS domains were functioning for all intents and purposes largely the same as they do today before they went the decentralized route. Like there's a time and a place to go this path, and I don't think it's in the beginning when you don't have your North Star yet. I just think it's setting these organizations up for failure when they give up centralized control too early.
Yes, I agree with everything except the one thing that you said where it's just the same, because Nick and his company used to have 100% control. And now if they want to make any changes to the protocol, they absolutely do not have that control, and they're forced to do collaboration if they want to touch the treasury or do any admin functions.
Completely understand that. I'm saying the product is essentially the same. Like an ENS domain, yes, there's new features and you can do more with an ENS domain today.
Again, that's not true, because ENS today is far, far different than it was a couple of years ago. It's not even the same product anymore with the name wrapper. And that took major collaboration with people who was outside of the core company. And if people didn't agree, then they would have had a hard time making the updates.
Right. My point is, though, it's been updates and enhancements, not pivots. Like, they had their true north. They've continued to execute, and as most companies, they're going to evolve and get better and add new features, and you're able to do more.
The North Star has not changed. That's correct.
It's been the same base product from the beginning, and they've been able to make enhancements and grow that with this in this decentralized world. But I don't know if they ever would have got here had they did this from the jump. Maybe they would. I think too often we're seeing it like either at launch or too early try to get the opinions of thousands of people who probably don't have aligned incentives. Jack, go ahead and get back in here. Appreciate the patience.
Look, I think I'm going to say, I don't know if this is the quiet part out loud or just the dumb part out loud, but I am not sure that DAOs or governance should be run off a token. Just sort of full stop. I think probably my hot take on this is that it just seems dumb, like real dumb, that we are financially incentivizing people to be involved in something that then they tend to always have to just exit from or continue. Like, it just, I cannot understand the core concept of like having these things be very, very new, fundamentally run on just this idea of, look, how much token is it that you own? Like, you know, I said this earlier, it should be down to the people who actually use the product, who are excited about the product. And if you want to latch on a token off the back of that, which I know projects have tried to do, but I'm not sure we've even got that right so far. I don't think there's a real example of like legitimate upside to holding these things where we don't just eventually see people just nuke the token or just dump their holdings of the token, because this stuff just takes too long. And I just think we're either launching them way too early, or they just shouldn't really be a part of the initial formation of a DAO or governance. I think most people do it because they need to launch a token and they need to attach something to the utility of that token, and they don't know what else to do other than say, hey, this is going to help you govern what we do in the future. And I think for the most part, people are getting that really, really wrong. Like I think for the most part, people who are just throwing the word governance with their token so that they can launch the thing, it's actually a net negative for what they're trying to build and for the community and the core people that they're trying to build it for. Like I just, yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on that.
Well, I agree. I think you're right. And it's like, I mean, if we zoom out, a DAO and governance tokens, it's not that awfully different than owning shares that have shareholder rights and voting rights. But it is like the biggest difference is, I feel here, it's so often it's like ground up, meaning like often it's waiting for the holders to drive something or to actually propose the decisions. Whereas with most public companies, you've got a CEO who's making decisions, you've got a board who's making decisions, and then sometimes those major decisions go up for a vote, and they get more of like, it's more like input and feedback from like, I've held a lot of stocks in my life. I don't know as if I've ever actually voted in one shareholder vote, Steve. Probably not surprising to you, but I hold.
I mean, have you held enough stock to make a difference?
Financial upside.
Right. Have you held enough stock to make it? Well, actually, all right, sorry, I see the point you're making now as you're connecting those dots. It's like you didn't hold the you don't hold the token or the stock because you're voting. You hold the token or the stock for the shareholder upside. And there is sort of an analogy to be had there for sure, as far as like what that looks like. And yeah, man,
I've never once been naive to think, oh, if I disagree with Elon, I'm going to go vote. I'm going to vote the opposite of him at their shareholder meeting, and that's going to make a difference.
That'll show him.
It means nothing. Like, and so I've just never. I don't know. Maybe there's whale games that they think of this completely differently, but I think for most people, we're not holding these tokens to tell the company what to do. And sometimes, not all, but sometimes I think the leaders, the founders, they almost use it as like an excuse and an out. Like, oh, well, you guys wanted this. It's like, well, no, man, we want you to lead.
Cap, before we go back through hands, should we do the daily market update? Which I realize we need to hit daily market update and more,
How about reverse order? You want to do more, and then because I could use 60 seconds of a first stream drop.
I will do that. I'll find my plan, and I will do the more by ENS. Speaking of DAOs, and then we'll get our way through this.
The more you know, brought to you by ENS.
It's time for the more you know, brought to you by ENS. Actually got a compliment recently that somebody said they can't get this song out of their head, and they said it as a positive thing. As I mentioned, a little bit of a slower 2 hour of sleep type morning, so I should have gotten this one earlier, but we're talking the Solana ETF, which is officially in motion. Talked about it earlier on the show. It is turning some heads. Multiple issuers, Van Eck and 21 Shares, have filed for a spot SOL ETF. And the SEC has already asked them to update their filings, with a final decision coming as early as July. That's like 3 weeks, y'all. This is a surprise because the SEC previously labeled Solana as an unregistered security in lawsuits against Coinbase and Binance. The stance casts serious doubt over, whether a SOL ETF was going to ever be possible. But the fact that it's moving forward now signals a major shift in tone and potentially in policy. If approved, Solana will become the first major altcoin to have a ETF. Of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum already have those spot ETFs in the US approved in the past couple of years. Ethereum followed Bitcoin first in January 2024, Ethereum following in May of 2025. A Solana ETF would expand and the field and give a traditional investor easier access to one of the most active blockchains in crypto. The decision could reshape how regulators and markets approach the rest of altcoins in general in traditional markets. And that was The More You Know, brought to you by ENS, not just anchoring your name across Web3, but anchoring it across the internet. It's your identity, simple, memorable, and unmistakably yours. Security, interoperability, and ease of use. Go to ens.domains to secure your ENS domain today. Maybe get some DAO voting rights. Cap, I think we rolled ourselves straight into the ApeCoin market update, and we get that through, and then we can finish strong here with more DAO talk. It's been a good discussion this morning, and maybe we hit some focus talk to finish things out. We'll see.
The daily market update straight to your brain. Powered by ApeCoin, no hype, just gains. Moving on ApeChain, we bring in the heat. NFTs, Feds Alpha, never miss a beat. ApeChain on top, now we bring in the flex. The home of NFTs, these now what's next. Come on, my head time, bloody body time, and chop for one time.
It's time for the daily market update powered by ApeCoin, the home of NFTs. ApeChain has it all, bringing culture, fun, and community to the blockchain. Dive in and see why ApeChain is on top. Cap, tell me green numbers.
We did not get quite the rip that I thought we would see. It's still up on the day. You can see here's when the CPI came in. I don't know if it was CPI or Trump news. I guess it would have been CPI print. Better to beat expectations. So we're up a little bit. Actually, on the day, down 0.05% on Bitcoin at 109. Maybe breaks 110 here today. ETH at 28. Actually, let me scroll down and go to this list here. ETH up 1% to 28.02. XRP flat to $2.32. Solana up 4%, leading the charge today out of the majors, 167. I feel like just yesterday it was 150. Doge broke 20 cents, finally up 2% on the day, and Cardano up 70 to 72 cents, up 2% on the day. I'm gonna actually send a complaint to Evan over at Mintify and tell them that they need to add hype in the Coinbase 50. It's far more important than Cardano at this point. I'm not even joking. Runes, we're just going to skip over them as always. Fartcoin up as always. Hot air rises, but it's not rising as fast as the Murad coin SPX 6900 is. He continues to grind it out on TikTok, and it's up to $1.64, 11% of the day. Fartcoin not far behind, up 8% of the day. Trump coin flat at $10.97. Pepe down 3% of the day. Shiba is flat, and Doge, again, I mentioned, up 2% of the day. NFT land, we have Good Vibes Club up 2% of the day at 0.84. I mentioned the Stone, the customizable 101. I think there's 3 of those in the collections, was a 12 ETH sale. Those crypto agents that minted a few days ago down 22% to 0.09 as they find price discovery. Moonbirds down 14% as the shine of Spencer taking over wears off a little bit. 0.67 ETH. Still didn't think we'd see Moonbirds at 0.67 ETH in 2025. So GG's there. Seen about 40 ETH of volume on most of those collections. Apes up 1% on the day to 12.89 ETH. Mutants 2.09. Opepin getting some volume. I don't know. There must be a new addition coming up here for those Opepins. With seeing that volume. Pudgies up basically flat, but up 0.54% on the day. Milady's up 3%. Far World Creatures. No idea what this is. It's a base collection. Saw a lot of volume. Only 0.003. So not going to look too much into it, but if anyone's paying attention to that, or DX Terminal also on base, 184 ETH in volume. I'm guessing there's some wash trading, something going on when you see 39, 40,000 sales, but nevertheless, they are tracking due to the volume there. So if anyone is familiar and it's not just some farming happening or some wash trading, we're happy to dive deeper. But that's our daily market update brought to you by ApeChain. ApeChain on top. And also, as we talk about ApeChain, Steve, I did pin up the Caps Clutch Market Parlay of the day, shifting it up a little bit today. I'd been taking did I lose my screen share? Sorry about that. I've been taking the Major League Baseball money lines and just running about as cold as possible. Still running fairly hot in my underdog battle royale picks, but the money lines I've been missing 1 of 2 by 1 run almost every single day. And yet last night was no different. So tonight we're going for the Mets, who are the favorite, the most favored favorite in MLB today, paired with the Pacers, the underdog in Game 3. We're rooting for the Pacers for Game 3 of the finals tonight. So if both those hit, the listener's going to be taking home that payout tomorrow. And we also have a surprise special as it's US Open season. So we might have another special NFT from a friend for a listener tomorrow as well. Stay tuned for that.
Love to hear it. No, it's interesting. Like, any reason why you think that? Why do you think we didn't send completely on everything?
I don't know. I mean, we got a candle, but it not much as and I guess Nasdaq is ripping. Let me pull up that chart because maybe it's just crypto is lagging a little bit. Looks like the TradFi stuff and even pulled back as well. So I don't know. Maybe it's just there enough of the the impacts of the Trump like song and dance is wearing off. Maybe I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It is weird because
I do. It was already priced in. They just. I saw earlier when I was sharing something like trending was the art of the deal. I think markets had just started pricing in a deal getting done. Like once they knew last week, or I think it was last week, they said that US and China was meeting this week in London. I think markets maybe just already priced in that the deal was done. And so today when it got announced, not really much movement. CPI usually sees more movement than what we saw though. So I don't know. Good question. I'm not that smart to understand the markets that well.
Yeah, who knows? Look, I want to keep the conversation going because I know we have a couple more hands in the DAO stuff, and I do want to move at least the last 15 minutes on a couple other topics. But let's do this. Let's get I know I had to take my son to soccer. Did that. Who's next, Cap? You tell me.
I don't see any hands. So I on my screen I see we got Jack, Gary, and Depressive Hacks. Jack's giving us a wave. Gary's got a hand up. We'll go Gary, and then anyone else, Jack or Depressive Hacks, if you want to get in here, throw us a hand. Looks like we may not be seeing hands. Yeah, there we are. Gary, go ahead with Gary, Jack, and then I'll hand it back to Steve.
Cap, you had that really, really intelligent insight talking, comparing the DAO situations with, voting rights with some stocks. And there's going to be tokenization of stocks. And so we know tokenization of stocks will be coming online. And so your insight clearly shows that there's going to be crossover between the way DAOs vote and people, have access to their voting on the blockchain versus what's going to happen with the Web 2 side. The Web 2 side is always going to have that, or, the traditional side is always going to have that financial component. But there will be unforeseen consequences, just like with the internet in 2008 financial crisis was made worse with high frequency trading, or, in the early 2020s with CrowdStrike, or, there's like dependencies on the internet that have unforeseen downstream effects. And so there will be tokenization of stocks on the blockchain. And once that happens, then it will be interesting to see how someone does like a single blockchain transaction. And I think this is a conversation worth having about how not only will DAOs continue in the future, because there has to be a way of, having this system to block Sybil attacks for voting. But, there's going to be a Venn diagram crossover of voting rights for traditional companies on the public trading market.
This probably undoes everything I've said this morning. When I probably would vote for my first shareholder vote ever, Steve, of a public company, was when they tokenize and bring it on chain. Like if that happens, I kind of joke, like I would probably do it once or twice and then the nostalgia wears off and I'd never do it again. But yeah, bring the public companies on chain and then I'll vote with my shares.
I thought you were going to say you're so offended by the Apple bubbles that look, that again, I think there's a massive, not great, but the overreaction out of control.
It's not a reaction though. You need to go look at that thread I shared. Like that, like I can understand where you're coming from, where it looks similar on the one image. The UI just looks like junk. And I follow I'm not deep in like tech design Twitter, but I'm like adjacent to it. And every designer that I look up to and respect, they all share the same opinion. Like anyone who's tested it, the iOS 26 is just, it's garbage. It's very, I mean, it's just like the Mert who described it. It's like without a leader. It's like you got a lot of project managers. They're getting their thing in that they need to have seen but it's in an orchestra without a conductor, and that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of projects pushed into one thing that just looks like a cluster when it's all said and done.
I don't know if it's real, but the guy who designed it looks like he got fired, apparently. Or at least there was a. It might be fake. I'm not going to say I got on this one because I don't.
Pretty sure that's fake.
But either way, there was something. I mean, I thought it might be. I saw it again. 2 hours of sleep. I saw it on a plane where I was getting that 2 hours of sleep. But there was it said that he got fired or something, and somebody replied, "Thank you for your transparency."
Something else that someone said, I don't remember where I saw it, but they said it's almost as if they designed it for like the Vision Pro, where you have depth. We don't have fucking depth on our phone. It's a 2D screen, and I don't know. It's just like
I think people are just like it's fine. Like it's fine to have like the critiques. I just think like if I have to see like one more person post the exact words Steve Jobs rolling over in his grave with the exact same screenshot to go ahead and get themselves like 15,000 impressions on a tweet. Like there's some low hanging fruit engagement farmers out there that just like steal content from other people when they see it cook, and it's name names, but it's been like, is he really, is Steve Jobs rolling over in his grave? Is he that upset about this? I don't know. It's just, it feels like it's like, okay, like that, first of all, that's like a very low effort joke anytime you don't like anything with Apple, or very low effort like tweet. And then two, it's like you're going to steal that low effort tweet from someone else. It's like, congrats on being a copy of the derivative. Anyway, I get off my soapbox. Jack, get back in here.
I freaking love you on the soapbox. Look, first off, just for Von Frunten, North Star. He said he would do 10 push-ups in the group chat every time someone said North Star, so apologies for that, listeners. Outside of that, look, I just think it's important to look, when we talk about like ICOs and IPOs and tokens and governance, to just reframe this into how long it actually takes a business to go from inception to IPO. And it's 7 to 10 years. Like tech is 5 to 7. But then, like, once you get past like the tech industry, which I guess is probably the most comparable to what we're talking about, it goes way, way beyond that. And this is my biggest issue with DAOs and governance. It literally, we are talking about businesses that have been around for maybe a year or two. No one knows what the fuck they even are yet. And apparently, we're going to just launch a token that we can governance the direction of what that project is going to be in the future. It makes no sense to me. It's super dumb. And that again, coleslaw. I had to say coleslaw as well for some reason. Anyway, like this is the big thing. Like, why on earth do we think that launching a token with a business that doesn't really even have a model yet is a good idea? And why do we think that people who hold that token, whilst it appreciates and there is no utility behind it other than to get to vote on the direction of the company, it is the right move? Like, I think there's literally 10 businesses in the whole of crypto that should have a token right now in respect to governance. It's just ridiculous. So that's my final take on that.
The utility of the token is you sell it for more money than you got it for. That is the utility of the token, is what it is. I mean, Cap said it about the Dude token when it dropped. He's like, there's nothing to do except sell it. That's the only thing you can do with the token. Like, what do you think's going to happen? I think, that's what happens with a lot of these tokens. It's like
anime. Did you see what happened to anime?
Anime cooking.
Anime pumping?
I saw a chart this morning. It looked like it was down 30% on the day. Let me go double check. Maybe someone was fudding.
Was it?
Maybe I caught the pump yesterday and it's now just retraced the whole way.
It was up. I mean, it was
actually one of the 10 I would put in there though, which just proves how dumb I am, because if it has just dropped 30%, because at least they have literal like a roadmap. They've got anime.com. They are literally building infrastructure that you can follow. It actually makes sense as a business because they've been around for years and they're like at least in a little bit of a way at consensus of what they're building. But I don't even know if anime has governance, does it? Like, I don't think it gives directional.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe.
No.
I don't know. I'm not. I sold the little anime I got. Yeah, it did get a pump yesterday. It ran all the way up to 4.5 cents back on June 9th. And now it's down to 2.9 cents. Market cap of 163 million, down 24% on the day. I don't even understand that. Why? What in the world would have happened were it to be when the market's not bleeding off? Like it must like a whale selling off or something. Like that's
it was it the TCG. They had they launched a card collection, like these big cool ass boxes of initial cards that you could collect, and there's like a game involved. And I think you had to buy these card packs, which were like $90 or so. It might have even been more, but you had to do it in anime.
I missed that completely. I'm on
Really cool.
Anime Coin now.
Really cool, actually.
I'm on Anime Coin now, and their post last 12 hours ago is Megan Thee Stallion is making an anime.
Big
yeah,
is true.
I just don't know what they're doing.
I mean, I know what Megan Thee Stallion's doing now. I don't know, man. I don't man, I don't know, man. Like, there's a conversation to be had here. I know Dort brought it up in the war room because he was like, oh, we only talk about, like, I think we talk about the ecosystems we're involved in and the things we have focus on. But he's probably right that there's a discussion to be had here about, like, what is happening with Azuki. Jack's got some updates going on. You know, seems like they're building stuff. But I feel like, again, I'm just going to call the two out that I see on the timeline. It's like I see Zagabond, I see Burnt Toast making these big grandiose statements a lot. And I'm like, what's happening with your company? You know, it's cool to talk about like what you think the future of, I mean, Udi, we just talked about Udi as well. It's cool to talk about like topics and things that you think are interesting. Like I brought it up the other, I don't know. I'm not going to continue to harp on like one individual brand, but like, I'm not saying these people should be one dimensional, but what I am saying is like, I've never met a successful CEO or successful builder that wasn't hyper obsessed with the thing they're building. And I'm not saying people can't have personalities or other interests, but if you audit your content and your CEOs, you know, 80% of their content is related to things that have absolutely nothing to do with what they're doing. I know Web3 is a little bit different. At what point does it become like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, shouldn't like, am I crazy to think that like maybe people leading large companies that have holders that are holding assets worth thousands of dollars that are building these big ambitious ecosystems should be using their platform to talk about those ecosystems and the things they're building around them and sharing progress and behind the scenes and what's coming next? Am I crazy? Like, I don't understand how we've like come to this founder class where it's like the founders class seems to want to be the cool kids table. Like the teams want to be at the cool kids table. Like, you know, like I'll say this. Credit to the product team and Doodles because they talk about that product. When they go on spaces and they have conversations, they're talking about the product. They're talking about what they're building. Like, credit to them on that. But, like, I don't know. Like, we've talked to Cam and Garga in the past few days, and it seems like they're constantly talking about things related to their business. Like, that's what I want. Like, I want to know what Good Vibes Club is building, that they're out in the community, that they're taking pictures with the community, that they're out doing events, that they're talking at talks, that they're building and, you know, creating new lore, that they're like, I want those things from them. I care what they think about other topics. It's worth bringing up, but like, think about it. When we interview someone on this show, almost always, inevitably, like tomorrow when we talk to Ovi, who is a market commentator, OSF, or on Friday, I mean, when we talk to OSF, we're going to talk to him about like the drinks, the wrecked brand, the origin, his background. I don't know that we're going to be like, so OSF, like, you know, talk to us about Fartcoin, which by the way, like he's a market commentator. He can like, but like when we had Garga on the show, we weren't like, yo, Garga, give us the download on what you think about, what do you think about like memes on Abstract? Like, I don't know, man. It's just, maybe I'm just like being too old man yells at cloud, but like, and I'm not trying to single anybody out. Like I know building is hard and I'm not saying they're not working behind the scenes, but at some point when I feel like the team is talking about everything but the thing they're building in some of these brands, like sitting at the popular table on crypto Twitter in our niche of a social media site, like, I don't know that that's as important to me as the updates on what they're building. Like I said this before, it's like, I just feel like what you do should be in service to your product. Like when you take one of the reasons why I haven't and don't take jobs, generally speaking, at individual brands and companies in Web3, if I don't have to, why I tend to be in more of a consulting role is because I think it would be important for me to talk about the thing. Like, I think Hollander balances it pretty well, to be honest. Like, to give him some credit there. It's like Hollander's the CMO of OpenSea, talks about why they're shipping at OpenSea, what they're shipping at OpenSea, writes articles, he tweets about it, and occasionally he tweets about, like, things he's interested in the market, but, like, that also relates to his business. I don't know. Like, am I off my rocker here? Should these, like, have you ever met a CEO of, like, a large company that you're like, the thing that they talk about is, like, maybe at best tangentially related to their business? Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't see, like, Nestle talking about, like, they're in food and beverage, so it's, like, hard to even go tangential there. Like, they weren't talking about, like, this is maybe, like, a weird way to go, but, like, Nestle wasn't like, let's talk about the toilet market, because that's the back end of our product. It's like, it wasn't that. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, it's not like they don't need an opinion on double ply. It's just, they're talking about, like, the food, where it's going. That's what they post about. Like, am I crazy here?
I don't know, like that food can definitely require some double ply every now and again. Like I could see those two things being connected, depending what sort of food Nestle are chopping up these days. And no, dude, you're not at all. I think, look, just on the Azuki point, because I was like, yeah, okay, what have they done? So they have a Behind the Beans series that is, like, fairly regular. Like, there was a couple of months now, but 2 months ago, there's a bunch of different things about what they're building. They've got the TCG that literally just launched and, like, sold out immediately within their community. They've got the anime that they are also actually creating on YouTube, which I think the episode 2 came out 3 months ago after the first one, which was like a year ago. But they're also at the biggest anime event in LA in a couple of weeks, alongside the biggest anime series that exist in the world. You got Bleach, you got My Hero Academia, you've got Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, and you've got Azuki, who are also at the Anime Expo. So it's hard because, yeah, I don't know if you could say the same about some of these other projects that we're referencing. I do also think they just don't do a good enough job sometimes on the timeline outside of the community itself. But I don't know if that's a big deal anymore. Like, if you're not interested in Azuki, like, you don't want to hold it, at what point does their success and what they're building just sort of fall off the timeline? And is that really important?
I'm not close, so I'm not good to comment here, but, like, I just went to their YouTube. Their episode 1 was a year ago. It got 2 million views, and they have some other, like what? Are they just not launched episode 2 yet? Are these just short?
No, episode 2 launched 3 months ago with 2.6 million views.
Okay.
But you're right. Like, that's a fucking huge gap, and it was a 15-minute episode. Like, they are doing a lot, but very sporadically for the attention most part.
That's good. I mean, like,
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, we're getting mad. We're getting a lot of volume on this thing. It is so loud. Like, sorry, it was. It sounded like the wind was blowing in my ears. I don't know if you heard it on your end.
I don't know how to turn it off. I just closed the tab, but yeah, the Yuzuki wind was blowing. My bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Sorry.
Yeah, I just didn't know. Like, okay, so I missed episode 2 launch, 2.6 million views. That's awesome. But back to, like, what are they? Is it a governance coin? Is it just you can buy stuff with it, whether it's TCGs or pack? Maybe I should bite my tongue until I explore more. But since we've been very opinionated today, another opinion I'll share real quick, and then I'll hand it back to you to get wherever you'd like. The vice president is of the opinion that the Fed's refusal to cut rates is monetary malpractice. Shots from the top ropes. I don't know what that means. Take it however you want, but
I don't know. I was gonna say, though, like, I actually want to take something back. Like, I do want to give credit. Like, we mentioned a few in here. Burnto's timeline's all doodles. Azuki, Zagabon's timeline is all Azuki. So they actually are doing a better job on that. There are members of the team where it's like, I guess they're a step away. So maybe that's, something to be said there. I don't know. Like, I feel like the focus, the communication, what's coming next. I feel like there is a little bit of brand confusion going on. And I don't know. Maybe I'm, like, over expecting because of that communicative nature in Web3. So I I was just throwing some ones out there. I mean, Udi was the example I think that really comes to mind because he is talking about seemingly, and again, might be the clips I'm seeing, right? Like where it's like maybe he's talking about Taproot Wizards all the time about other stuff, but I feel like I see Udi on the timeline dunking on people and talking about runes and talking about Bitcoin. It's like, again, it's related to his business, but like, and I know that's part of it, and OPCat is his business, so it's not entirely Taproot Wizards, but I don't know. I feel like it's a trend I probably need to be more specific about if I'm going to call it out. So I need to be a little bit more, I think, smart about the way that I look at what those are before I make those critiques. So I'm gonna hold off on that for the time being and make sure that I'm checking myself where it is there, because again, like I look at those, saying some of these founders and ones I'm seeing, I am seeing content now. Again, progress is different than just seeing content, but they are doing the thing that I'm asking. So I got to check myself on that one and make sure that I'm being intellectually honest about it before I continue to go down that rabbit hole. Depressive Hack, saw your hand flap. Let's go to you and then we'll go back to Jack.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you like a devil's advocate position on this. So would you feel better if you saw like nothing coming out of those accounts? Would you just think like, oh, they're busy, shipping and working, and they're really focused, like they don't have time to post and like talk about what's going on in crypto Twitter and like keep up with everything? Would that be a better alternative to like not doing what they're doing now?
No, but I don't think I think it's a false choice. Like I guess, and I understand what you're saying, so I'm not trying to specifically push through, but like
I even bring this up is because like I think it was this week. They all kind of blend together. I'm pretty sure it was this week. So the Poly Market announcement with X, right? Like Polygon has long not really done the whole CT thing like other companies have, right? And I think like there was a time maybe a year ago at least where people were like, oh, nobody knows what's going on, like they aren't participating in like the CT ecosystem and they're not well, okay, no, they didn't, but now they have this major company that's built on their rails that's partnering with the platform that we're talking on now. So like where is the right mix of participation? That's kind of the point that I was trying to make.
I mean, I don't know. Like to me, like the right mix of participation is like building in public. Like I say it like people like, I feel like I'm just like shouting into the wind at this point. And so people probably don't care, but like like you mentioned behind the beans, like or Jack mentioned behind the beans. Hilarious, amazing name, by the way. Shout out to Azuki. Makes me more bullish on Azuki with that one. But like behind the beans, it's like, good. Show us what's being built behind the scenes. Give those behind the scenes content. Like and I'm not tied to the Azuki ecosystem, which is one of the reasons I want to check myself and back myself off on that one, because I have an elemental, I have a bean. I'm probably de-levering myself from those along some other stuff. We'll get to the focus talk tomorrow a little bit on Thursday. I want to see like what, like, I think in Web3, it's like, keep your holders abreast of what's going on. Like, talk to them, have regular sessions, have updates on the timeline, show behind the scenes, give product updates, show not fully finished things. Like, that's what people are looking for in this space. And I think that like, I guess I'm curious why teams at this juncture don't invest more time, energy, and money. And again, Azuki seems to be doing it. They have an engaged community. Great. Like, I'm not going to even comment on the Azuki ecosystem because I'm not deep enough in it. I'm miffed at like why every brand that's in Web3 isn't ingratiating themselves to the community through a building in public type mentality. And that's where I would be spending my money. Like I said, that's why I said it's a false choice. I'll, to go back to the tone of the day, I'll strawman the other side of that, right? It's like, or I'll strawman that argument and say like, I don't think that is a choice that needs to be made. I don't think it's silence or talk about tangential stuff. I think it's really come out in full force and talk about what you're doing, activate your employees to talk about what you're doing. Like, and it's okay for them to be engaged in CT in general. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, I think some team members get so far strayed from what their company's doing and are just talking about random things. And like, I'm not saying they shouldn't have personalities, but I don't know. I might not be getting my thoughts cohesively together this morning on the light sleep. So I'll leave it at that. Jack, saw you want to get back in here. Let's get Jack in here and then maybe we'll shut this sucker down.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna again another hot take maybe here, but I do blame Cato and like I'm not anti Cato or Cato or however you fucking pronounce that thing, but I do blame the current rewarding systems for attention and earning points by creating content. I think a lot of that now just focuses on like pre or post TGE tokens. And I do think people are just almost overly focused on that more broadly anyway. Like, I do think there's this thing about we're so overly fixated on financial now that like these projects are building some dope shit. We're just not seeing it on the timeline. And then the second point is I also think you're dead right on the building in public and behind the scenes. And some of these projects are doing it. I would just argue they're not doing it in the right place. Like I think both Doodles and Azuki have very recently held AMAs for like an hour on Discord, and they don't give any access. And I get why they're doing that, because obviously at least they can curate, okay, this is actual holder consensus here. But like the fact that they're not putting that on the timeline, and then we're not also incentivizing like yaps or whatever to actually talk about these projects more, I think is a negative, because I think we talk more about shit that's absolutely not interesting in this space right now. Like when you look at the content that's being created and the reward system for that content, I just think it's completely broken, and it's hyper focused on just like who can pay for that attention as opposed to who's actually building some dope shit. And I would say Doodles, Azuki, Bored Apes, like these are all great examples of companies who've been around long enough now to actually be at a point where their product's starting to make sense. They have like these different avenues of content that you could have a conversation around, but we just don't see it at all frequently enough, because the biggest names with the most attention on X are talking about random bullshit to actually earn money, as opposed to talking about stuff that's actually exciting about this space that could maybe bring attention outside of the people who are currently here. And
so do you think that the content would be better if it was NFT companies that were using Kaito?
Yes.
Or do you think it would still be the same quality of content, just about a different product?
No, the content would be so much better. So much better. NFTs and the current like top crop of, you know, if you look at Klaynos have just announced a television series. They've just had a huge day with their digital collectibles and what they're doing next. There are at least 10 projects who are building IP, are building animation, are building cool shit that's actually entertaining, that I think if we both, you know, look back to when we were 15, 16 years old and we said, what are we going to do in this, you know, world? What are we going to get involved in? It would have been graphic design. It would have been animation. It would have been gaming. It would have been, for the most part, if you could just do whatever you enjoyed doing when you were that age. And I think that's what brought a lot of people into this space. And now we're not fucking talking about it anymore because there's no money in it and it's bullshit.
I you know, Jack, just to give you a little nod, I won't go into the whole story time here, but as mentioned, like kind of was working on a you know, an article last night at the airport that was specifically about like the Kaito topic, just because I thought it would be a fun thing to write about. And yeah, my the title of it, which apparently was in a different color. Anyway, the title of it is talking about your favorite, and the idea is this is like something I could share with the Web2 audience and they could like learn about Kaito. It says it's talking about your favorite brands, your new side hustle. The subtitle is you've been powering culture for free. InfoFi wants to change that. But when it pays to post, does it deepen your fandom or dilute it? And then later on, I kind of talk about like what Kaito does. I said, sounds like a win-win until it's not. When everyone starts posting to earn, whether they care about the product they're talking about or not, does anything feel genuine anymore? That's the question at the heart of InfoFi. And so I have like a whole piece on that. Then I'm going to go through the, you know, ups and downs and what that could potentially be. But, you know, it's like, look, I mean, Kaito's got, there's BS content that's out there. There's the rich getting richer and the same's mouths getting fed. There is the, you know, the aspect of, you know, people with inorganic sort of pumps they can get because they have people who can go towards them to get on those leaderboards. There's the products themselves not being something someone's truly interested in. That's one of the reasons why, like, I should be more interested in Hyperliquid. I tried to monkey around with it and couldn't figure it out. And I'm a relatively tech savvy person who works in tech. Like, you know, probably when it first dropped, when Phonics first brought it up to me, like, what was it, a year ago or something? And it's not interesting. And so I don't do it. That's why I said, like, and we'll talk more focus tomorrow. That's why, like, I like Ape Chain. I like Abstract. I like NFTs and real world adoption opportunities for the blockchain. I like a few NFT communities, my Good Vibes Club, my Clanos, my Bored Ape Yacht Club, a few that I really like, right? It's like VeeFriends. Love VeeFriends. Like, I'm going to focus time, energy, and content on there. I'm not, whether I get Kaido or not, bizarrely tweeting about a couple of things have gotten me, I think the other day I was 28 on the pre-TG leaderboard, all for stuff that doesn't actually have any sort of value to it that I'm aware of. OpenSea and Abstract for the most part, because I don't know they're using Kaido at all. They don't even have a leaderboard, but like,
No, they are pre-TGE, that it's part of Kaido.
they are, but like, I don't know that it gets me diddly squat. Like I don't know that OpenSea or Abstract are going to utilize Kaido and the stuff that I'm putting in June 11th to
It
pay
doesn't matter
me.
if they do. What you're missing on it is others do. Like there's third party. It's like we talk about how the beauty of reward programs on chain is other entities could see that and know who, like, you haven't got it yet, but if you keep staying ranked there, you're going to get allocation for the next future up and coming drop, because that pre-TGE leaderboard is what a lot of other third parties will use to identify who gets their allocations.
I hope so, because
it's not work like you will. It's just you just haven't had one since you've been ranking on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been ranking on it for a few weeks, and I've been sitting there. They're in the state Kaido for whatever month, whatever it is, and so far nothing. But I'm not knocking it. I'm participating, and it's nice that I'm ranking without having to try. Right? It's like I'm just trying to tell people to go claim OpenSea rewards because it's super easy and it costs like 10. Like this morning, I bought an NFT on ETH to complete an OpenSea voyage, and then 20 minutes later, I listed that NFT at a profit and sold it. Like, it's like, that's, so I'm just trying to tell people to do that stuff, and it's ranking me on a leaderboard. So I'm going to take it. There's some tricks you can pull on it and things, but it's just, I don't know. I'm hoping that it works out, but I'm not, not overly optimistic. But we'll see. I don't know. Either way. But yeah, I don't know, Cap. Let's do this. I think I'm gonna fall off my chair pretty soon here. And we still have a meeting at 11 that we got to get to, and I haven't eaten in closing in on 24 hours at this point. So I don't know what direction we want to go, because we have a couple more people I think here, but like I'm running thin. So you tell me what direction you want to go. Just warning that the lack of sleep, the red eye, and the lack of food, and only running on coffee is starting to catch up on me a little bit.
Yeah, let's shut it down. We got meeting come up here in a little bit, give you time to get maybe a power nap or at least a snack. I did just share, I'll throw it up again, the latest race poster is live on Ape Chain. These are free mints. This is a Canadian race, or their Canada race. Pinned up top. Go click through. Literally takes you 2 or 3 clicks. It's free to mint, super simple, and maybe nothing comes of it. Maybe it's just collecting a race poster. I don't know. My spidey senses tell me you're going to want to have those in your wallet, since it takes very little effort, very little time, and I don't know. There's a big partnership with Alpine and the Ape ecosystem, and they're doing a lot of stuff together. And I know nothing. I truly know nothing. I don't have any insight or information. I just think that it's a possibility they're doing more together than just minting some race posters. That's my guess.
Yeah, I will. I'm minting mine right now. Doesn't cost anything. Super easy. Gets to get it on chain, and we do a little bit of Alpine. Plus, I mean, it's Canada. We love America's hat. Our neighbors to the north. Oh, Canada. Gonna lose the Stanley Cup again. But yeah, like that said, let's let everyone sail off another day, and we will continue the conversation.
Jumped up. We're gonna wind down, but we had a few others about the DAO conversation that reached out. Actually, shout out to Reese from Polygon, setting up. He's gonna get Sandeep on the show for us, so appreciate that. I really love how amazing it is when we can be talking about a topic or a subject matter expert, and a listener or friend of the show reaches out and connects the dot that we didn't have. And Sandeep and he followed me a while ago, but we've never interacted, never engaged. So appreciate the assist on that one. And yeah, I think we will probably have another DAO conversation at some point in the near future with some individuals that are much more involved in leading said DAOs and get some alternate viewpoints.
Yeah, we should probably put together a panel of some sort. Like we don't do enough, I think, panel type things. Like we could dedicate days to panels and actually do it.
I saw Sandbox DAO. If you want to get in here real quick, would love to invite you back for a deeper conversation. I think this would be a great idea. We do a DAO panel and bring, 3, 4, 5 representatives from different DAOs and talk through it. But yeah, go ahead and get in here real quick. Appreciate you jumping up and good to connect.
I appreciate it, Cap. You obviously need some sleep and some food other than coffee. This is the Kunta MC here behind the account. I can't get my hand down. It's just stuck in the air up there. But I jumped in only for the end of your conversation here, and mostly because I saw the title, of course, are DAOs and decentralized governance dead? So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that the Sandbox DAO is alive and kicking. There's growing pains on all fronts when you're trying to build a government, especially, a government of people who are well invested and passionate in the things they're trying to build with personal and collective interests combined. DAOing ain't easy, but we're doing it. So, I've been following closely with the sunsetting of the proposed sunsetting of ApeCoin DAO just to see what we can learn. And of course, to just chime in where we can and say that we're doing what we can at the Sandbox. That's the influx of energy is always welcome here too. So I think the panel idea is great. I just wanted to put our name on there when you do put such a thing together. I would love to be part of that conversation.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be in touch. And Steve, you can take us home, but I do want to give this a shout out as we close as well. I think it's a great idea from Von Brunton. I would love to see more thoughtful campaigns on the Kaido front, not just, hey, we're on the leaderboard, go do your thing, but actually a curated experience, I think, would be a good idea. I would expect that probably happens sooner than later.
Yeah, I think there's probably something to be said about how we go about that particular thing, right? It's like, is it like, because there is a level, something to be said about the creativity that it allows. But I agree. I think focused campaigns is going to be the next iteration of this thing. So be interesting to follow and see how that goes. But that said, let's set everyone off into their day. I think we need to do more panels, like you said. Like, I think like that's one thing maybe to add to our repertoire is like pick a day for panels, get our repertoire a little bit more into that. I know we're doing a lot more interviews lately. People may have noticed like we've been hitting hard on interviews. We've done, I think, try to do at minimal 2 a week for the past, I think, 2-3 weeks, get more people involved. So we'll add panels to that as well. We're going to try to do more potential like all day things like we did with ApeCon, because that was really fun. So some new things come into fruition for us for sure as we get this thing going. But look, we'll set everybody off in their day. I'm gonna go get some food, some water, and probably not a nap until at least 1 o'clock today after I pick my son up from soccer. But we'll be back probably semi-normal tomorrow. And by Friday, I'm getting someone to give a ride to my son of soccer on Friday because I'm going to be fully locked in for OSF. Looking forward to talking to Ovi, all of the things that he is doing. He is crushing it. Reccoin continues to go up. So we'll talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.